All right. Hey, what's up? What's up? What's up? It's your girl Neek, and you're tuned in to Neek at Night. And tonight we're gonna be going over the latest installment in this Nolan Wells story. Okay, we're gonna be getting into Mr. Officer Tatum's bombshell of an interview, where the interview is heavily, and I mean heavily edited. But even with the interview being extremely heavily edited, we find out more information that raises more questions than answers. Now, if you guys don't know who Officer Tatum is, the person who's conducting this interview with Warren's friend, Officer Tatum is the ultimate bootlicker. He is the ultimate sellout, and he is the ultimate trying to paint a narrative person if there ever was. Well, I don't want to say if there ever was one, because he's amongst many in his crowd. He's right wing. He does anything to disparage Black people. And his quest for this interview is to prove that Nolan Wells' friends who last saw him, that he went to the island with, are innocent. And in his quest to prove that they're innocent, he heavily edits the content. He gives them softball answers. And basically, what his tactic is in all of these videos, throw out a theory or a conspiracy that nobody said, and then he has the boy answer the question, and then that is his groundbreaking investigative work. So an example of this, and I'm going to go over all of the interviews, but one example of this is he'll make a statement that nobody said, have the boy answer it, and then voila, he just cracked the case and they're innocent. One example he threw out, and he said, so when you guys went on the island, everybody made it seem like it was just 4 people on the island. Was there more than 4 people on the island? And then the guy will answer, and he'll be like, well, yeah, there was a group of us. And then he's like, everybody in the comments is acting like they got substantial information that exonerates them from any wrongdoing. And it's like, first of all, you're having him answer questions that nobody even said. Clearly, we've already saw a video where there was allegedly this altercation that people first thought was Nolan, and then his friend Tracestin said that it was him. We saw that it was several boats there. We already know that it wasn't just them on the island. We know that it was 4th of July celebration. So he'll ask questions that, and in every single answer, the boy never answers anything directly. Every single thing that he answers, it's not a direct response to what Officer Ruckus asked. He'll ask, so what happened with the phone situation? Like, why didn't Nolan have his phone? And I'm just paraphrasing or whatever, because I'll go over exactly what he said, but I'm just giving you like an example. He'll throw out something and he'll be like, so why didn't Nolan have his phone? Now, us, the audience, we don't give a flying about when people get in the water and they put their phone on the boat. We want to know, why did you have his phone and Nolan did not have his phone? So he'll ask a question that we don't, like, that's not what we want to know. Like, clearly, if you're on a boat and you get off and you go and you're in the water and you're swimming in the water, you're going to leave the phone on the boat. Like, hello, we already know that. That's not the question. The question is, why did you guys leave the island and took possession of his phone and did not give him his phone? Why did he not have his phone? Not, oh, everybody, when they get in the water, they don't have a phone on them because you don't want the phone to get wet. Why did he not have his phone when you left, not what people do when they're going in the water. If he is going on another boat and he's not leaving on your boat, why do you have his keys to his car and why do you have his phone? So we're going to go over the interviews. Now, at first, and again, I have to go and listen again because at first I thought he said that Nolan was not on his boat that he was on. Nolan was on a different boat. Then in this third interview, he says that Nolan was supposed to be on the boat that he was on. So a lot of things didn't add up. We also find out that there was an altercation with Warren's brother where he got into a physical fight. And they want us to believe that right after his brother gets into a physical fist fight, that has nothing to do with why they're rushing off the island. They want us to just be like, oh, well, yeah, well, my brother got into a fight and Nolan ended up dead. But, we left because, nothing about that. Like, no, like that's not even a big issue. We left because the bilge pump or whatever, started to get water in the boat. And then it's like, wait. No, we need to know about this fight. So you had a fight. I mean, your brother had a fight. Tracestin is on video claiming that it's him also getting into a fight. All of you guys leave. And the one friend that came with y'all after these fights happen with your group is dead. But we're supposed to believe that it's not suspicious that it's like, who do you guys think you're talking to? And then you literally look in the comments and people are like, oh my God, he's totally innocent. This totally makes sense. When he said nothing that made sense, he answered no question directly. He did not give a direct answer. He danced around every single question that was asked of him. And when there was a question that we really want to know the answer to, Officer Grifter milks the video into another segment to pump out more dollars. And he claims that the race hustlers are in it for money. But every time there is a chance to get, some actual information and some real tea on, or not tea, but real info about what's going on, he grifts and milks out another video. Let's bring it to the top. I already covered the first video, but we need to see the first video first, and then we're going to go to the second, and then we're going to go to the third. But none of it makes sense at all. And we're going to get down to the bottom of it. Now, as I told you guys, I'm not going to play his video in full. I'll play a little bit of it just so that you can see the tone of his friend, how his friend has zero emotion. Mind you, this is supposed to be his best friend that died, a best friend that he has had since elementary school. Granted, everybody grieves differently. I get that. But you mean to tell me that this person that is your best friend, anytime you talk about your group of friends, you make it seem like he's some +1 tag along and not a part of the friend group. You always make a statement and you're saying, oh, my buddies and like it's always like you have a group of friends that are your friends and then Nolan is this tag along, but you want us to believe that you guys are all best friends and you guys all loved him, but you always make it a point to single him out as some tag along. It's just crazy, but we're going to go over all of it. Let me pull up the first video in the first grift. Let's go to, where's part 1 of this? Hold on. And then you have all these people in his comments. Oh, you're such a, you know, giving them the house Negro welcome. All right, so let me pull this up and let's get into it.
So, Warren, I'm going to ask you some very pointed questions. I mean, just straight out. The first thing I want to ask you is, did you kill Nolan? All right, Warren, we had a chance to get to know each other over the last, 2 days. Went out to Horn Island. So I've had an opportunity to talk to you about a few things. And the things that you've told me have literally blown my mind. But the world haven't had a chance yet to hear your story, to hear Nolan's story through you, through his friend. And it's not just you, it's a bunch of y'all. But, you know, some of the other guys were afraid because of the threats and the violence that's been threatened against their lives and all of the above. But you decided that you wanted to take this bold step and give a statement and, you know, get your side out here. And I want to start at the very beginning of all of this and ask you, what was your relationship like with Nolan? Who was he to you?
Nolan, I could describe Nolan in a million ways. I mean, Nolan was not just a best friend of me, but he was a brother. I grew up through elementary, middle school, high school, and even our freshman year of college. You know, we talked on the phone all the time. We were really close friends. And I mean, Nolan was like a brother to me. And Nolan lit up every room he walked in. He always had a smile on his face. He always had something good to say. I've never seen Nolan get in an argument with somebody and say bad things about someone. You know, there's a lot of people that talk crap nowadays, and Nolan was never that person. Sweetest soul ever. And I mean, I had a great relationship with Nolan. I've never got in an argument with Nolan.
All right. So he gives this speech about how, you know, Nolan was his bestest friend in the whole wide world and how Nolan and him never had an argument. And it's key things that you listen to. And it's like, why is it important for you to tell us that you and him never got into an argument together? And then is that because we're going to hear about this fight with your brother? So anyways, I'm going to listen to a little bit more of what he has to say. I just want you guys to hear his description of his friendship with Nolan. And then I'm going to read the rest.
We were super close, and I've never said or will ever have anything bad to say about Nolan Wells.
Yeah, and you guys, you said you kind of grew up together. Mm-hmm. Did you know his mom, or how was that? Because I saw in the media where it appears that she may have said, at least I saw in part, that she said as if she didn't know any of you guys.
Right. Well, Nolan, a lot of the times it was at like my house and at my buddy's house. We never went to Nolan's house and hung out. I mean, and my friend group's very, very tight knit. I mean, we hang out every day when we're back home from school. In high school, we hung out most weekdays and every day on the weekend. And I mean, we were never at Nolan's house, which, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. But I met his father, and I mean, in 8th grade, that's when Nolan and I like got really close. It was COVID year, and we were in class all year long together, me and a couple of my buddies. And Nolan and I just got super tight because we'd get a Waffle House once a week together, eat. And I mean, we were just super, super close. But his dad would swing by Waffle House, you know, and like, you know, hang out around us, but never, you know, I was never around Nolan's parents a lot, but I mean, that didn't change our relationship any. Nolan and I were still just as close, and he was just as close with my friends as.
All right. So pay attention to how he says that Nolan Wells was his best friend. They went to the Waffle House once a week. They've been friends since elementary school, but they especially got close during COVID. They are now, they went to high school together, very close, have this once a week meetup. Imagine your friend, right? Your best friend that you see every single weekend. You're with this friend every day and every single day on the weekend. Your closest friend. Now, a lot of people, they wanted to say, well, parents don't know all of your friends, and plenty of kids have friends that their parents don't know, which is true. A lot of my friends that I went to school with, or my associates rather, my mom didn't know all of them. But my best friends, my friends that I'm with all the time, my friends that I talk to every day, my friends who I go to their house, you don't know the parents, but yet the dad would hang out with you at the Waffle House. I don't know his parents, but his dad would hang out with us at the Waffle House. But Nolan was with me every single weekend. And then he mentions his friends, and he makes a distinction how there's Nolan and then his friends, right? Like, he makes a distinction again, like Nolan is this +1 tag along. Like, he has his friend group, and then there's Nolan. Let me bring it back so you guys can hear how he phrases that.
Hang out around us, but never, I was never around Nolan's parents a lot, but I mean, that didn't change our relationship any. Nolan and I were still just as close, and he was just as close with my friends as, anyone else. So.
And walk me through the day.
He was just as close with my friends. Aren't you guys all friends? Like, that's a weird distinction to make. You get what I'm saying? Like, when I was in high school, I wouldn't characterize, like, if like my core friend group, I wouldn't characterize, oh, well, such and such was just as close with my friends. We're all friends. If we're all friends, what do you mean? Oh, he was just as close with my friends. What do you mean? Like, that doesn't even make sense. Think about your core friend group, and then you're talking about say you got 5 very close friends, and you guys are all friends. Are you going to characterize it? Well, he was just as close with my friends. But this is a tight-knit friend group. That's odd. But I'm going to finish reading the rest of what he said. I pulled the transcripts from the video, and let me pull up, let me see which one. Okay. So all right, so let's go. Wait, let me pull up where we are, because I don't want to play his entire video. I just wanted you guys to hear that part. But we are going to go over every single thing that he says in the video. So let me see, what was the timestamp? Okay, so we left off at 3 minutes. So let me go to the 3-minute mark, and then we'll read from there. All right, so he said, All right. Make sure this is a All right. So he says they hung out most weekdays and every day on the weekend. And I mean, we were never at Nolan's house, which, there's nothing wrong with that. But I met his father, and I mean, in the 8th grade, that's when Nolan and I like got really close. It was C19 year, and we were in class all year long together, me and a couple of my buddies. And Nolan and I just got super tight because we'd go to Waffle House once a week together, eat. And I mean, we were super, super close, but his dad would swing by Waffle House, you know, and like, you know, hang out around us. But you know, I was never around Nolan's parents a lot. But I mean, that didn't change our relationship any. Nolan and I were still just as close, and he was just as close with my friends as, you know, anyone else. So, and what I think he means by that is he was just as close to the white boys as he was the black boys that they showed on the internet. That's what I think he means, but I don't know. But anyways, he says, and me, it says, okay, and walk me through, and this is what Officer Ruckus says, and walk me through the day of 4th of July where you guys were all going out, right? This seemed like something that I would assume that may occurred more than just this year, of course. Was this something that you guys did more than just this year? This is a 2-part question. I want to know, is this something that you guys typically did together? Did you hang out often in this fashion? And then I want you to then walk me through the 4th of July this year when the incident happened. Okay, you know, me being from the Gulf Coast, there's a boating and fishing. Boating and fishing is very popular. The 4th of July every year, my friends and I, or my family and I, are out on the water. I mean, that's the one day is guaranteed. Everybody's going out, and that's a known thing. Everybody's trying to get a ride out to Horn Island, or, you know, people go to Ship Island, but most of everybody from Ocean Springs and the Gulf Coast go to Horn Island. And, you know, we went last year. Nolan was on the boat with me last year, and he was, I mean, this was a common thing. My friends go on the boat when we're home. Very, very common. That's what we like to do. My friends like to fish also, and like to go on the boat. Not just fishing, but like go on the boat, like to go on sunset cruises, like just like do it all, you know, on the water, you know. And I mean, Nolan loved that too. I mean, he was not like any, and then he was just like everyone else in our group. Let me go to that timestamp, because it's like he was not like any what, like any other black person. Like what do you? He was not like any what? Hold on, let's go here.
Very common. That's what we like to do. My friends like to fish also, and like to go on the boat. Not just fishing, but like to go on the boat, like to go on sunset cruises, like just like to do it all, you know, on the water, you know. And I mean, Nolan loved to do that too. I mean, he was not like he was just like everyone else in our friend group. He loved to go on the water and, you know, have a good time with the guys. And that's what we did a lot. But 4th of July, everybody was out there. Like I said, like Nolan was always trying to go on the boat, trying to go out there with us. And he was always welcome to come. Nolan was always out there with us. And
you see how he makes the distinction? He was always trying to come with us. What do you mean with us? Who's us if it's a tight-knit friend group and he was a part of that group? You get what I'm saying? The way that he phrases things, it lets you know that Nolan was the token, and he's framing it like he was a +1 tag along. Because if I'm going to describe me and my friends going out, I'm going to say we would all go on the boat. There would be no distinction because we're all together. We're all included. We're all a part of that group. What is the distinction and the separation of with us? He would come with us. What do you mean with us? You guys are a tight-knit brotherhood. We would all go together. We would all go on the boat. We all love going on the boat. All of my friends, we all go together. Not he would come with us. You get what I'm saying? You see what I mean? Like how he phrases it? It's odd. Like it's just weird. But let's continue to dissect what he said. I'm gonna switch between, reading it and plugging in certain things. I don't want to play his interview in full, but we have the full transcript. So let me go back to the transcript and let's read some more. So he said that let's see, where was I at? Okay, Nolan, wait. My friends like to fish also, like to go on the boat, not just fishing, but like to go on the boat, like to go on sunset cruises, just like to do it all, on the water, and I mean, Nolan loved to do that too. I mean, he was not like he just like everyone else in our friend group. He loved to go on the water and, have a good time with the guys. And that's what we did a lot. But the 4th of July, everybody was out there. Like I said, like Nolan was always trying to go on the boat, trying to go there with us. And he was always welcome to come. Nolan was always out there with us. And but started the 4th of July, my buddies and I had talked about this week's upcoming, everybody's very excited for the 4th of July from down here. Like, it's a big thing. It's a big deal. Very big deal. And I mean, I actually stayed with Nolan that night at my buddy's house, and I woke up at my buddy's house, and we went to McDonald's, got food. Nolan was not with me, and I went and got breakfast. I had my buddy boat hooked up to my truck, and well, first I ran to my house, then I went to McDonald's and came back, and the boat was already hooked up to my truck. My buddy Wyatt and I went and with my buddy, and we went, filled the top of the boat off, loaded it down with ice, and just got everything ready. Then Wyatt went and put his smaller boat in the water, which is the Palm Beach. He's an 18-foot Palm Beach. And while I drove the boat from Fort Bayou boat launch to my buddy's grandparents' house, and that's where we all planned to meet up that day. And then it says, you say we all. Who? And this is Officer Ruckus. He says, you say we all. Who you talking about? You, Nolan, or Nolan? And how many people are going to meet you guys here? And so he replies and he says, we had roughly 20 to 30 people coming there, coming on 3 separate boats with us. And so we were all following each other out there. It was one big group, It wasn't just me and Nolan and a couple of other my buddies. There was 20, 30 people spread out where we all met at the dock before, and then we departed to go to Horn Island. It wasn't just a couple of us. I mean, we were there. There were so many people. We had to split up between 3 boats, and we all left and all got there at the same time. All right. So they go to this dock, and TMZ has the footage of them going to this dock, and let's see the footage. Let me go to TMZ so that we can see this exclusive dock footage that they released, where it shows them getting on the boat.
We're here. Tons of people you'll see on the video is getting onto the boat, and they took 3 boats out. It wasn't just one. It wasn't just Nolan and 4 boys. It was a multitude of people on several different boats. And some of the boys that they're accusing weren't even on the boat that Nolan was on. The video is showing how many people were actually out there, actually getting on the boats.
Look at the tons of people getting on the boat. Okay? Tons, right? He said the video is going to show that tons of people was getting on the boat, so much so that they had to split up between 3 different boats. And I'm looking and I'm like, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people, maybe 6. Like, where is this 20 to 30 people that had to get on the boat?
So therefore, it debunks very clearly that it was only Nolan and 4 boys going out here to Horn Island. The boys were here. Tons of people you'll see on the video is getting onto the boat, and they took 3 boats out. It wasn't just one. It wasn't just Nolan and 4 boys. It was a multitude of people on several different boats. And some of the boys that they're accusing wasn't even on the boat that Nolan was on. The video is showing how many people were actually out there, actually getting on the boats. So therefore, it debunks very clearly that it was only Nolan and 4 boys going out here to Horn Island. The boys were here. Tons of people you'll see on.
Tons of people, tons. Hold on, let me see if there was another angle.
We're at Horn Island in almost the exact same position where the boys were, where Nolan was. So if you look out right here, just so you guys can get a perspective, you have the Horn Island here. But I want you guys to put this in your mind, what this was like on that day. You have boats 2, 3, 4 deep.
Anyways, all right, so that was the footage. So let's go back to read what he said. All right, so he said, we had roughly 20 to 30 people coming on 3 separate boats with us. And so we were all following each other out there. It was one big group, you know. It wasn't just me and Nolan and a couple other my buddies. There was 20 or 30 people spread out, and where we all met at the dock before, and then we departed to go to Horn Island. It wasn't just a couple of us. I mean, we were there. There were so many people. We had to split up between 3 boats, and we all left and all got there at the same time. And then officer, no longer an officer, says, yeah, I just want to make sure that's clear, because the statements that are out there made it appear that it was just you, Nolan, and probably 2 or 3 other guys. And y'all, only y'all are the only ones that went out to this island. And nobody ever said that. Like, literally, nobody said that. Like, literally, nobody said that. He says, and that's incorrect. I mean, Horn Island on the 4th of July is the most popular day to be on the water. You know, the entire throughout the entire Gulf Coast. I mean, everybody and their mom is on the water on the 4th of July, you know? There's no telling. I mean, roughly probably 2 or 3, maybe even 4,000 people out there. There were boats lined up off the island. I mean, there was 3 rows of boats all the way until my vision ended, until I could see people from, I mean, there was 1 row of boats, and then there was another row of boats, and then there was a 3rd row of boats. I mean, there was people lined up all down the island to where, I mean, who knows? I mean, and that wasn't just, we were parked at the north side on the west tip. It wasn't just there. I mean, there was tons of people packed out on the south side and on the east side, in the east end, and in the middle of the island. But just where we were, I mean, there was easily 1,000 people. It wasn't just us. Now, again, he's making a claim, like every time he talks about how many people were there, I'm noticing that there is this huge exaggeration, right? So he says that there was all of these people at the dock. Well, we saw the video of the dock, and it was maybe, I'm going to jump and say maybe 10. We see 10. Like they're saying 20 to 30. I only see maybe 10. on that video. But then we saw the video where there was this fight, and Tracestin said that this was him, and we see how many people are there. All right. So as you can see, there's what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 people right here. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 14, 5. And then there's this group of what, 6 or 7. And then this group. All right. And then concentrate right here where it looks like there is gathering of what looks like it may be an altercation. And then you hear argument in the background. All right. So as you can hear, and I don't see thousands and thousands of people. I mean, maybe my counting is off, but I want to say I'm counting maybe 100, maybe 200 people, maybe, but I don't see thousands and thousands of people. That's just not what I see. But that doesn't mean that that's accurate, because there's a sea of boats, he said, and I don't see all of those boats. But anyways, if you listen in the background, you hear what somebody is saying, where Tracestin said that this was him saying, "Get me off this MFing boat." But people thought that it was Nolan saying, "Give me my MFing phone." All right. And so I'm trying to see, where would he be at? Which boat is Tracestin on? In order for us to hear him that clearly, and he's on a boat, and he's not in that group that looks like they're about to fight, which boat is he on? Let's pause. Is he trying to get off of this boat? Because it looks like everybody's looking forward. Everybody's looking forward to the people that are gathered on land, but let's see if we see Tracestin on any of these boats, because he said he was on the boat at this particular time. Everybody looks like they're focused, and they're facing this group on land. But he said that he's on the boat yelling at. And I'm trying to figure out which boat is he? Look, even the people over here are looking that way. Which boat? Which boat is he fighting to get off of? All right. Let's continue. We'll pull up Tracestin's interview in a second. I'm trying to hold on.
several people arguing, but rather it was him engaging in the verbal altercation while Nolan was elsewhere.
I just know I've lost my best friend.
For the first time, a friend who was with 18-year-old Nolan Wells the day he disappeared is speaking out. Tracestin Shepherd declined to appear on camera, saying he and the others who were on the boat have been receiving threats.
We did no wrong here, and we don't understand how we're getting so much hate behind it. We all cared and loved Nolan, and nobody wanted to see Nolan die. Nobody wanted to see his life be taken so short.
Shepherd also addressed this viral video that has fueled speculation online. Nolan's parents believed it showed their son involved in a confrontation, but Shepherd says it wasn't Nolan, it was him.
That's the video I'm referring to. That's me yelling.
Shepherd says he returned to the mainland later that afternoon, while Wells stayed behind on Horn Island with a girl he had met that day.
They met that day, and it was kind of one of those things. It did come off that day that he really did like her, but that was the only time they've ever hung out, was at Horn Island on July 4th.
Investigators believe Wells drowned and say they found no immediate signs of foul play, but his parents continue to question that conclusion. They told ABC's Good Morning America they tracked Nolan's cell phone after he disappeared and believe it was back on the mainland.
It was showing everywhere the phone had been, I was like, well, it's showing that he's back on land.
The Jackson County Sheriff's Office says the family has not yet turned the phone over to investigators, though their attorneys say they plan to do so. As the investigation continues, Shepherd says he hopes people will remember the friend he lost.
I think everybody needs to let the investigation continue and let the facts be shown.
Well, Shepherd said he has spoken to the police and that the sheriff's department said he and Wells' other friends have been cooperative.
The parents.
There was more to his interview, but we'll continue listening to what Warren had to say. All right, so back to Warren. So he says that, where was I at? All right, thousands of people out there. There were boats lined up off the island. I mean, there was 3 rows of boats all the way until my vision ended, until I could see, There was a sea of people from there. There was rows of boat. There was another row of boat, and then there was a 3rd row of boats. I mean, there was people lined up all up and down the island to where, I mean, who knows? I mean, and that wasn't just, we were parked out on the north side, on the west tip. It wasn't just there. I mean, there was tons of people packed out on the south side and on the east end and in the middle of the island. But just where we were, I mean, there was easily 1,000 people. It wasn't just us. And then it says, let's go back a little bit. I want to go back to you guys at the dock getting on the boat. You're saying there's multiple people, probably 20 or 30 people getting on 3 boats, right? What boat were you on and what boat was Nolan on? All right. This is important because he says that, well, a matter of fact, let's listen to him say this part. Let's go to the 8-minute mark.
North side on the west tip. It wasn't just there. I mean, there's tons of people packed out on the south side and on the east end and in the middle of the island. But just where we were, I mean, there was easily 1,000 people. It wasn't just us.
Let's go back a little bit. I want to go back to you guys at the dock, getting on the boat. You're saying there's multiple people, probably 20 or 30 people getting on 3 boats.
Right.
What boat were you on and what boat was Nolan on?
Nolan was on Wyatt 22 Triton. On the way out, I went with my buddy Bart because we had a lot of friends from college coming down, and Bart.
All right. So Nolan was on Wyatt's boat. He went out there on Bart's boat. But he left later on Wyatt's boat. we'll get to that. Let's listen to a little bit more. Let me bring it back.
Because we had a lot of
Getting on 3 boats.
Right.
What boat were you on, and what boat was Nolan on?
Nolan was on Wyatt's 22 Triton. On the way out, I went with my buddy Bart because we had a lot of friends from college coming down, and I called Bart that morning. I was like, "Hey man, can you take your boat out?" And he was like, "Yeah, well, my dad's decided not to go, and I'll take the boat and I'll take you and your friends." Of course, I mean, he's a buddy of mine. And so Bart pulled up at the dock, and I mean, I rode out there with Bart and a lot of the girls that go to college with my friends and I, and Nolan rode out on the Triton. And then we had a Palm Beach, 18 Palm Beach. There was 4 guys on that. There was like 8 people on the Triton, and then there was 8 or 9 people on the Triton, and then there was the rest of the group, which was ranged from maybe 10 to 15 or 16 people on my buddy's tide line, which is 24 tide line.
And so you guys get on, and I know a little bit more than the audience do because we went out there a little earlier.
Right.
All right, so let's pick back up. All right, so he gets on Bart's boat because he has friends that's in college. They got the girls on his boat. There's people on the Triton. And, you know, he's distinguishing the boats, which boat he's on, and he's naming them specifically, right? All right, so let's pick up. Okay, so it says people on the Triton, and then there was 8 or 9 people on the Triton. And then there was the rest of the group, which was probably ranged maybe 10 to 15 or 16 people on my buddy's tide line, which is a 24 tide line. And so you guys get on, and I know a little bit more than the audience do because we went out there a little earlier because I wanted to see exactly what the drive was like, what the dock was like, how far it is out there. But I want you to tell, you know, the audience, like, what this was like, what this trip like. You know, how was the waters? You know, did you guys do anything in between the time you rode and the time you get to the island? Was it music? Was it like a big party? Like, what is that? And he says, yeah, well, I mean, obviously music's blasting. It's the 4th of July. I mean, you know how, I mean, everybody's really excited. And I mean, we had a lot of people loaded down. So obviously our biggest, you know, we're just trying to make sure everybody, you know, gets out there safe. And so I mean, on the way out there, it was pretty calm. I think it was blowing like 3 or 4 knots. I mean, the waters were clear. It was a great day to be on the water. Sunshine, not cloudy at all. And I mean, it was a great day to be out there on the 4th of July. And so I mean, we followed each other out, and I mean, it was calm. It was calm on the way back. It was a little more rough, but it was not anything my buddies' boats couldn't handle. Or like, it wasn't like we were getting really beat up or anything. I mean, it was pretty calm. And you guys get out there. I'm assuming that you line up the boats. I'm envisioning the picture of getting out there, and there's hundreds of boats. There's thousands of people. So it wasn't just you guys on a deserted island with just not a few people. This is thousands of people out there, and where there's a lot of people doing what? What does it look like when you first pull up? So he says, I pull up, and we pulled up at 10:30. I mean, it wasn't, I mean, early afternoon. I mean, it wasn't, but 10:30 is, you know, it's still pretty early in the day. And when we got there, there was already 3 rows of boats lined up all the way, like I said, until I could see. Well, they showed the dock footage, and it says 9:54. He's 30 minutes off, but, you know, give or take, he's rough estimating, I guess. But anyways, he said, And when we got there, there was already 3 rows of boats lined up all the way, like I said, until I could see. And you're talking, when you say all you can see, you're speaking about miles? Yeah. Okay. When we went out there earlier, or not earlier, today, when we went out there on the island is massive, correct? I mean, it's several miles long, roughly 10 to 12 miles. I mean, okay, so then I guess he asked him another question. He says, so do you think that the boats were stretching from one end to the next, or just a small area of about a mile or less than a mile of boats? And then he says, well, I mean, I think there was boats all the way around the entire island, but that's just some spots were more popular than others, like the West Tip is usually very, very crowded on the 4th of July, and everybody knows that. So that's where a lot of people park because they want to be around other people, and the East End's a little more, there's not as many people, but there's still a lot of boats out there. I mean, it's not like no one. I mean, every area of the Horn Island is 100% covered. And then he jumps in and he says, wow, so you get out there, y'all jump out. What do? You know, when I say jump out, you obviously not jumping, not just sitting on the boat. The island is there. Like, what exactly are people doing there? Like, are you spending more time in the water, on the island, in the boat? Like, how is that? Like, how does that look out there? And then he replies to Officer Ruckus and he says, I mean, everybody, as soon as you get there, I mean, there's people on boats, yeah, grabbing drinks and, you know, food, whatever else. Like, I mean, everybody is fully prepared for the 4th of July. They bring, you know, all the drinks and the food that they need because, I mean, they've been preparing for the 4th for a little while now. But when I got there, I helped my buddies tie up the boats because the tide line was right here. The Palm Beach was in the middle, and then the Triton was on the outer side. And when we were there was about a drop off from where the boat was. I mean, if you jumped off the boat, you were probably neck deep in the water. But if you got off the stern, you were probably waist deep in the water. I mean, but when we got there, we tied up, got, you know, bow and rear anchor, and we tied up all the boats, made sure we were good, and everyone just got on the water. Then eventually, the next thing you know, it's our group. And then, you know, the next thing you know, there's 50 other people around us. And then it just grew as the day came on. And, you know, I mean, that's how it was. Everybody's drinking, you know, I mean, it's the 4th of July. Everyone's trying to just enjoy themselves. And, you know, it's a big party, basically. Big parties. And then officer jumps in. So y'all pretty much having a good time, just like anybody would imagine. 18-year-olds, probably 20-year-old college students, right? Out on the island, women, you know, probably had alcohol. So y'all having a good time. So he says, yeah, of course. And so where's Nolan in this? You know, you guys out there, the friend groups are out there, 3 boats full of people that came out there. That seemed to be the closest group, right? Where's Nolan in this comparison to where you and the others are at? He said, well, you know, and let's listen to him explain this part via video. And I'm gonna be flipping between video and reading just so that it's transformative and I'm not playing his entire thing verbatim.
The Palm Beach was in the middle, and then the Triton was on the outer side. And there was about a drop off from where the bow was. I mean, if you jumped off the bow, you were probably about neck deep in water. But if you got off the stern, you were probably waist deep in water. I mean, but when we got there, we tied up, got, you know, bow and rear anchor set, and we tied up all the boats, made sure they were good, and everyone just got on the water. And then eventually, next thing you know, it's our group. And then, next thing you know, there's 50 other people around us. And then it just grew and grew as the day came on. And, that's just how it was. Everybody's drinking, it's 4th of July. Everyone's just trying to enjoy themselves. And, it's a big party, basically. Big party.
Yeah, so y'all pretty much having a good time. Just like anybody would imagine, 18-year-olds, probably 20-year-olds, college students, out on the island, women, you probably had alcohol. Y'all having a good time.
Yeah, of course.
And so where's Nolan in this? You guys out there, the friend groups are out there, 3 boats full of people that came out there that seem to be the closest friend group.
Right.
Where's Nolan in this in comparison to where you and others are at?
Well, I had a couple conversations with Nolan that day, and I talked to him and a couple of my other buddies. In a group, I was not focused on anyone solely, like looking and pointing anyone out, because there's so many people out there. I was talking to my friends that I haven't seen in a while from high school. I was talking from people I knew from college. I was talking to, everybody my age, and even people older than us were, over there. It was just a regular thing. We're all used to this. We've been out to the islands before. My buddies don't just go out to the island on 4th of July, but they go out, every weekend. I fish the islands. I don't just, fish around Horn Island.
We don't care about you fishing. Where was Nolan? Where was he at? You see how he dances around the question? We're not talking about fishing. We're trying to establish what was Nolan's movements that day. What was your interactions with Nolan that day? What time did you see him when you got there? What was the He goes on and rambles about stuff. And you know what they say about people who have to over explain? It's you're talking to us about fishing and we're asking you about Nolan. If Nolan wasn't fishing, then what does that have to do with the price of tea in China? All right. So he says, well, I had a couple conversations with Nolan that day, and I talked to him and a couple of my other buddies in a group. I was not focused on anyone solely, looking and pointing anyone out, because there were so many people out there. And let's let's go back to the question that was asked of him. The question was, so y'all having a good time. And so where is Nolan in this? You guys out there, the friend groups are out there, 3 boats full of people that came out there. Where is Nolan in comparison to where you and the others are at? Not about fishing. Where were you and where was Nolan? He never answers the questions. He has it seems like he has a script and then he just tries to stay on it. Where were you? Where was Nolan? Well, I had a couple conversations with Nolan that day, and I talked to him and a couple of my other buddies in a group. I was not focused on anyone solely, looking and pointing at anyone out, because there were so many people out there. I was talking to my friends that I haven't seen in a while from high school. I was talking from people I knew from college. I was talking to, everybody my age and even people older than us, over there. I was just a regular thing, we're all used to this. What do you being used to going on the water have to do with where the fuck Nolan was at? We've been out to the islands before. What does that have to do with where Nolan was and where you were? We're all used to this. We've been to the island before. What is that? Okay. Like, I mean, it was just a regular thing, you know. We're all used to this. We've been out to the islands before. My buddies don't just go out the islands on the 4th, but they go out, you know, every weekend. Like, I fish the islands. I don't, you know, fish around Horn Island. I fish around Ship Island too. So I'm very familiar with the islands. And I feel like it was just a big I talked to Nolan, and you know, Nolan was drinking. Everybody was drinking, most of everybody. And I mean, Nolan seemed completely fine every time I talked to him. And we had just regular conversations. And you know, Nolan was making me laugh. I had a couple conversations with Nolan and Javon. Nolan and my buddy James. Nolan and I could tell you mean I talked to Nolan a couple of times, but it wasn't like I was strictly sitting there talking to Nolan the whole day. I mean, there was 100 of people I knew out there. So yeah, and Nolan said, hold on, let me go to this because some of the words get chopped.
I fished around Ship Island too, so I'm very familiar with the islands, and I feel like it was just a big. I talked to Nolan, and you know, Nolan was drinking. Everybody was drinking, most of everybody, and I mean, Nolan seemed completely fine every time I talked to him. We had just regular conversations, and you know, Nolan was making me laugh. I had a couple conversations with Nolan and Javon, Nolan and my buddy James, Nolan, and I mean, I could tell you, I mean, I talked to Nolan a couple times, but it wasn't like I was strictly sitting there talking to Nolan the whole day. I mean, there was hundreds of people I knew out there. So,
yeah. And Nolan said something interesting. You told me about this. Something he said to you, I would say would be indicative of y'all's friendship.
right.
And then he also mentioned something to you about that particular day and what it meant to him.
Right.
And could you share that?
Right. Yeah. So Nolan and my buddy Javon are talking, and you know, I grew up with Nolan, and Nolan's, you know, just all, like I said, like just so joyful, like always happy. Like every picture I have with Nolan or picture I have of Nolan, he's smiling. I mean, like he's always happy.
And I'm gonna just read it from here. He says, and I grew up with Nolan, and Nolan's, you know, just like I said, just so joyful, like always happy. Like every picture I have with Nolan or picture I have of Nolan, he's smiling. I mean, like he's always happy. If I always need like a shed light, I'm calling Nolan, you know? And Nolan and I laugh and joke a lot. Like that's how our friend group is. We're really jokingly laugh, you know. No one takes anything that serious, you know. We enjoy our time together, you know. And I mean, there's never any awkwardness within our friend group. We're very, very tight. So if I ever need to get something off my chest or talk to anybody, I'm talking to all my friends. I'm not just talking to like specifically anybody. I hope I go out like, even if I'm having issues with something, I go in my group chat and my guys are there to, you know, give me a hand anytime I need it. And all my guys are, and mind you, he's giving this answer that wasn't the question. What did Nolan say that day that was indicative of y'all friendship? What the hell does group chats and smiling pictures have to do with anything? There's never any awkwardness within our friend group. We're very, very tight. So if I ever needed to get something off my chest or talk to anybody, I'm talking to all my friends. We're not talking about all your friends here. He asked you a specific question about Nolan and what he said that was indicative to y'all's friendship.
Boy, I mean, it wasn't just Horn Island specifically, but where I was at Horn, there were boats everywhere, and not just like random boats, but like, marine research.
Oh wait, this is the wrong one.
If I always need like a shed of light, I'm calling Nolan, and Nolan and I laugh and joke a lot. Like that's how our friend group is. We're really jokingly laugh. No one takes anything that serious. We enjoy our time together. I mean, there's never any awkwardness within our friend group. We're very, very tight. So if I ever need to get something off my chest or talk to anybody, I'm talking to all my friends. I'm not just talking to like specifically anybody. I would go out, like even if I'm having issues with something, I go talk to my group chat, and my guys are there to, give me a hand anytime I need it. And all my guys are, all my buddies are the same exact way. Nolan was the same exact way. If you ever need something, I'm here, man. Like that's how he was. So,
And then
that did not answer that literally did not even answer what he asked you. He asked you, what did Nolan say that you want to share with us that was indicative of y'all's friend group? And you told us a story about how y'all all, how you could talk to Nolan and you could talk to all of your friends and y'all talk in a group chat. And then he says, like, that's how he was. So, and then you guys get ready to leave prematurely, right? So he jumps from asking what Nolan said that was indicative of their friendship. And then he jumps to asking him a question about them leaving the island early. So he says, okay. And then you guys get ready to leave prematurely, right? And like, what? Explain that, because you guys got there around 10. Yeah. It's now 4:30. People are still out there partying and they're having a good time, but something happened to where it is necessary for you guys to get the boat up and running. Can you explain that? So he leaves the interview off on a cliffhanger. So we get to him leading up to when it was time for them to leave the island, and then he ends the video so that he can grift onto a new video. Okay, but yet, and then there was people in my last video and they're like, how are you calling him out for making money on these videos when you're making money on these videos? And I know that the comprehension of you guys are slim. Some of you guys are filled with racism and all of those things, and it clouds common sense, critical thinking skills, and comprehension. He made it a point to call out Al Sharpton and call out Ben Crump and say that they're using this for a money grab. If he is different and he's not using this for a money grab, and the information that Warren has to say absolves him and it exonerates the whole friend group, and he has all of this evidence, why is he piecemealing the information in a series of multiple videos so that he can squeeze as much money as he can from it? If the information is so important and you're not like the other people trying to get a money grab, then you put all the information out. You put it all out on the table. You don't piecemeal the information. Hey, this is important. This is what he's saying. This is the evidence that absolves and exonerates them. And this is why they're innocent. And this is the whole thing. This is everything. Instead, you're giving heavily edited segments and you're piecemealing it into multiple videos, and you're not asking him any of the pressing questions. He's not answering anything directly, and you're squeezing out as many videos as you can. Now, I'm not acting like I'm not here to make money. That's the difference. He's acting like his role in this situation is purely because these boys need a voice. Their information is important, and he's the only one that will talk to these boys, which is a lie. So if that is the case, then put all the information out. Now, me, yes, I'm here to make money. I'm here to cover stories and also get money. But if I was to cover a story, which I've covered plenty of stories that I did not make money on. There's so many stories that I have covered on my channel where I wanted the information out there. Like, getting the information was more important than the dollar amount. There's so many videos that I've done on my channel that were not monetized, and I put them out anyways, even though I knew that they were not going to be monetized, because the information was more important to have it in full. Like, there's certain videos where I could edit, redact, reduce it down, but it would kind of take out the essence of the transparency of what it is. So I put it out in full. I don't get any monetization or limited monetization. Some stuff has been age restricted, but it was so important that I covered it and I posted it anyways in full in its entirety. That's different than somebody heavily editing something and squeezing it out, and you're calling other people cash grab, money grab people, but you're doing the same thing, trying to maximize your dollars. That's totally different. I'm not going out there to Mississippi and saying, you know what, I'm here for the people and I'm not here for the money. But yet I do everything that shows that I'm trying to make the most money. Like, hello? We don't understand that. So let's go to the second video. So then after that video, he does a part 2. This is part 2 of his explanation. He leaves the last video off on a cliffhanger, and then he goes from the cliffhanger to the island. So let's see how he ends this video off, and then we're gonna go to the other video that he did after this.
You guys get ready to leave prematurely.
Right.
And like, what, explain that, because you guys got there around 10.
Yeah.
It's now 4:30.
Right.
People are still out there partying and
Correct.
they're having a good time, but something happened to where it necessitated you guys to get the boat up and running. Can you explain that?
Yeah. So
all right, so he ends it on this cliffhanger. Everybody's like, ooh, what's going on? So then it leads you to the next video. So then the next video is this part 2, where now he wants to show us the best friend exposing the truth, right? He throws out a statement that nobody said, and then he acts like he's debunking this statement that nobody said. It's like a running theme on all of his videos. He throws out something that nobody said, and then in the video, he debunks what nobody ever thought. And then the comments are acting like he's doing investigative work when he's not even asking the questions that we really want to know. Let's watch this, and the same thing. I'm gonna play some, read, play, read, etc.
Accusing wasn't even on the boat that Nolan was on.
If I'm sitting waist deep in water and all my friends are, everybody's leaving their phone on a boat. I open the back hatch and there's water up to the batteries. And that is obviously not good. Nolan decided to stay on the island with the girl that he was with. And the girl is a witness to that too.
Yeah. All right, we're in Mississippi right now. We're getting ready to recount the exact path that the boys took, also with Nolan Wells, from where they docked the boat at all the way out to Horn Island and back. The boys are going to explain to me exactly what went on, how many people were there, how many boats were taken out, which I think the world is going to be completely dumbfounded when they realize what the truth really is, because the lies have been pervasive.
We're not going to be dumbfounded because we already knew this information that there was multiple boats when Tracestin and Javon did interviews before you got there. Why would the world be dumbfounded on information we already knew?
So we're right here where Nolan left on the boat, and you'll find out how many people were there, how many boats, and then we're going to take that same path out. I'm going to go look at Horn Island and see exactly where they could have been to get a perspective that the media don't even care to try to do. And then we're going to take the trek back, and we're going to find out exactly what happened to Nolan.
He is so disingenuous. Like, he is so disingenuous. It's not even funny. But the comments are eating it up. Like, he is doing an amazing job getting to the truth when he debunks stuff that nobody said. And nobody is calling him out. Like, what are you talking about? Like, literally nobody said that.
This is the reason why I'm here, man. I want you guys to have a voice. I want you guys to be able to speak out and show what the truth really is, and then let the world decide. I just don't want you guys to end up in a situation where your story never gets heard. Right here.
He's so full of shit. Ooh, child.
Is where Nolan and probably 20 other kids got on the boat. So it's not just Nolan and 3 other kids. That was a lie. That was a myth. I'm going to prove that.
Nobody said that. How are you proving a myth that nobody said?
Right here is where the kids were docking, and we're going to show you a video that coincided. I'm going to walk at the exact angle that the video is being broadcast from, so you know that I'm exactly where I say I am. But the boys were here. Tons of people you'll see on the video is getting onto the boat, and they took 3 boats out. It wasn't just one. It wasn't just Nolan and 4 boys. It was a multitude of people on several different boats. And some of the boys that they're accusing wasn't even on the boat that Nolan was on. But let me show you from the vantage point where I have the video to prove that I'm here where I say I am. And so right now, here's the angle that you're going to see on the footage. It's just from probably that boat to, maybe about 30, 40 feet here to the right. And this is where the video is showing how many people were actually out there, actually getting on the boats. So therefore, it debunks very clearly that it was only Nolan and 4 boys going out here to Horn Island.
Who thought, nobody thought that. Nobody even thought that. But even with you so-called debunking it, you're also debunking what the other guy said, because he said that it was 20 to 30. I don't see 20 to 30 people getting on boats.
All right, you guys, sorry about the sunglasses. It's very bright out here, and I never wear sunglasses, but we're at Horn Island in almost the exact same position.
All right, so let's switch to text. Same thing. Let me see where we at. All right. So he says that, so therefore it debunks very clearly that it was only Nolan and 4 boys going out there on Horn Island. All right, you guys, sorry about the sunglasses. It's very bright out here, and I never wear sunglasses, but we're at Horn Island in almost the exact same position where the boys were and where Nolan was. So if you look out right here, just so you guys can get a perspective, you have the Horn Island here, but I want you guys to put this in your mind, what this was like on the day. You have boats 2, 3, or 4 deep from way down there where you can see all the way through here. You have thousands of people on the island, probably 2,000 people. So this wasn't some abandoned, secluded island where nobody's at. Let me play him. Let me click off of this one.
Where the boards were, where Nolan was. So if you look out right here, just so you guys can get a perspective, you have the Horn Island here. But I want you guys to put this in your mind, what this was like on that day. You have boats 2, 3, 4 deep from way down there where you can see all the way through here. You have thousands of people on this island, probably 2,000 people. So this wasn't some abandoned, secluded island where nobody's at. Obviously, this is a Monday, and there's a few people on the backside of the island, not a lot of people here. But on 4th of July, this is a celebration. And so this wasn't a small place where 4 boys took their black friend and dropped him off and never seen him again. This place was flooded.
4 boys plus the other boys dropped off their black friend and never seen him again. Is that better? 4 boys plus a couple other of them dropped their black friend off and never seen him again. Is that a better statement? But anyways, you see how he exaggerates. And in this video, he doesn't show footage of the day, right? There's clips out there that pan and show you how many people were there and what it was like. We see the video where Tracestin says that this is him, but his description and what we see is 2 totally different things.
With people. And so this wasn't a small place where 4 boys took their black friend and dropped him off and never seen him again. This place was flooded with people. Tons of people, multiple boats, multiple friend groups. I mean, everybody's here having a good time. And then the boat gets towed out because it was getting ready to sink. And so, and for what I was told, they told Nolan, get on the boat, man, get on the boat, get on the freaking boat. And he decided, because he's an adult, that he was going to stay behind. And all the boys that they've been accusing, and they saying it had something to do with his death, they were all gone at 4:30. They were all gone. And they told Nolan to get on the boat. He didn't. And then there was a report of somebody seeing Nolan around 6:30-ish. And so for them to come out and claim these lies, won't take the time to come to Horn Island, won't take the trip out here to figure out what happened, won't talk to anybody.
He's so disingenuous. So you mean to tell me TMZ, CNN, ABC, all of these people who have been trying to interview everybody surrounding this case won't talk to the main people that were there? You the only person that's willing to talk to them? When there's literally videos of people trying to get answers, camping out at the sheriff's station, trying to find out what's going on with the investigation. Like, you're the only one that's available to talk to them? No. They supposedly have a black friend that they love, and they specifically told, and they specifically sought out the most self-hating Negro that they can find, the most bootlicking person that they know will craft and curate the narrative that they want. They know that if they went to any other site, that they were going to be questioned with the real questions, and that they would have to answer the real questions. But they knew that you were a bootlicking Uncle Sam, Uncle Ruckus, self-hating Negro, and they knew that you were going to do anything that you could to curate a particular narrative for them. So they chose to talk to you. Not that nobody else would talk to them. They chose you. You were the token that they needed to spin this the particular way that they needed to spin it. You ain't fooling us. They ain't fooling us. The only people that you're fooling is the racist crowd that you appeal to, that don't use critical thinking skills at all, because there's no way that anybody who is using critical thinking skills listens to any of these interviews and thinks that this exonerates anybody. I mean, everybody's here having a good time, and then the boat gets towed because it was getting ready to sink. And so, and from what I was told, they told Nolan, get on the boat, get on the boat, get on the freaking boat. And he decided he's an adult and that he was going to stay behind. All the boys that they've been accusing and they saying it had something to do with his death, they were all gone at 4:30. They were all gone, and they told Nolan, get on the boat, and he didn't. And then there was a report of somebody seeing Nolan around 6:30-ish, and so for them to come out and claim these lies, won't take the time to come to Horn Island, won't take the trip out here to figure out what happened, and won't talk to anybody pushing an agenda is wrong. And that's the reason why I came out here. I wanted to see for myself, what did this look like? What could have happened? You know, does the stories line up based on what I've seen and what I've heard from people that live here and that were involved in this situation? This is where the lies started. People were putting out on social media, knowing that they're lying, that this is what it was like on that day. Like Nolan and his friends came out here to Horn Island, and it was 4 or 5 people, and they came out here and Nolan was with them, and maybe it was a few out of here like it is today, and Nolan came up missing, and then maybe it would be suspicious. But they didn't take the time to give context to the people because they're evil and they're liars. How are they evil and liars when nobody said this? Literally.
Involved in this situation. This is where the lie started. People were putting out on social media, knowing that they're lying, that this is what it was like on a day that Nolan and his friends came out here to Horn Island. And if it was 4 or 5 people and they came out here and Nolan was with them, and maybe it was a few people out here like it is today, and Nolan came up missing, then maybe it would be suspicious. But they didn't take the time to give context to the people because they're evil and they're liars. So if it was like that right now, when the situation happened, I can see how people had a concern. But you got to replay this moment with thousands of people here. If anything would have happened directly involving Nolan and his friends, you can't tell me that thousands of people wouldn't have seen anything happen.
Well, Nolan died, and thousands of people claim that they don't know anything. So what do you mean? You're saying that you can't tell me thousands of people would not have seen what happened, yet thousands of people are claiming that they didn't see what happened and he lost his life. Like, what are we saying here, sir? What are we saying? You can't tell me that thousands of people are here and they didn't see what happened. Well, thousands of people were there and they didn't see what happened. can tell us what happened.
And so that's pretty much why I wanted to come here and show you guys. This is what they want you to believe it was like on that day, which is a lie.
Nobody said that. Nobody said that it was only one boat out there and only 4 guys. It was the 4th of July, and his other friends have already spoken out and talked about the atmosphere, and the videos have been widely spread. He said, let's see, let's go to where he was. They didn't take the time to give context to the people because they're evil and they're liars. So if it was like that right now when this situation happened, I can see how people had a concern. But you gotta replay this moment with thousands of people here. If anything would have happened directly involving Nolan and his friends, you can't tell me that thousands of people wouldn't have seen anything happen. And so that's pretty much why I wanted to come here and show you guys. This is what they want you to believe it was like on that day, which is a lie. They want you to believe they came to a secluded island, just 4 of them, and then Nolan is left behind. And then his body washed up on shore, and nobody knows what happened. His body left, like, that's still the same scenario. Like, the body washed up on shore and nobody knows what happened. Like, what is different other than there was more people on the island, which we already knew. He says, nobody could have seen what happened but the boys. It's a flat out lie. Is there anything that you want to say? You want people to know about this whole experience? And then, so this is him talking to Warren. Yeah, I mean, from someone, if someone's not from here, it's kind of hard to understand, you know, where the island drops off and how the island works. But, you know, there's plenty of people out here, especially on the 4th of July. You know, this is where people come to celebrate. And I mean, if you feel the water, you can see right here, Brandon, where it drops off. I mean, you could see literally where it drops off. So, I mean, it goes from about waist deep water right there to neck deep. And then it drops from neck deep all the way to like 17, 20 feet. I mean, we weren't even a quarter mile out the island. And when we were leaving, and I mean, it was 30 feet of water. Yeah. But I mean, if we're walking towards the east right now, but if you walk down the west, that's where the west tip of the island is. And that's where the current picks up very, very bad. People talk about the phone position. I wanted to, people, because you articulated, I just walked in the water with my pants. They're wet. Hold on, let's go to this.
Very bad.
People talk about the phone situation. I want to, because the way.
All right, and then you see how he cuts from one thing, and there's a quick edit.
30 foot of water.
Yeah.
But I mean, if we're walking towards the east right now, but if you walk down to the west, that's where the west tip of the island is, and that's where the current picks up very, very bad.
People talk about the phone situation. I want to, because the way you articulate it, I just walked in the water with my pants.
Right.
They're wet. And you can tell right away that if you're hanging out in the water, it doesn't appear, in my opinion, that you would have your phone on you. Is that typical for people to have their phones, or?
No, I mean, people come out here, especially on the 4th and, you know, Memorial Day, like, you know, days like that, they come out here to celebrate.
All right. So he wants him to tell him about the phone. I just went in the water and, you know, I got my pants are wet. So, is it typical for people to have their phone? Nobody is disputing that if you're in the water, that you won't have your phone inside the water. What people want to know is why he had Nolan's phone, but Nolan decided to stay back on the island with the girl without his phone and without his keys. That's totally different than somebody on the boat and they leave their phone on the boat to briefly go in the water and then go back to the boat to their phone. Why did he not have his phone when you guys left the island? Not what's typical when you're on the island, on the boat, you get off the boat, get in the water. Why did he depart from his phone and why did you have it? That is what we want to know. Not about, well, people don't normally have their phone in the water. What does that have to do with when it's time to leave and you guys are separating? He said, it doesn't appear, in my opinion, that you would have your phone on you. Is that typical of people to have their phones? And he says, no, I mean, people come out here, especially on the 4th and, Memorial Day, days like that, they come out here to celebrate and people get on the water and to be off their phones, first off. Second off, if I'm sitting waist deep in the water and all my friends are, everybody's leaving their phone on a boat, in a lake. If you're sitting on a pond, if no one's getting out of the water with their phone in their hand, unless, it's to take a quick picture. But most of the pictures taken on the 4th of July were on the boat. I mean, and salt water, if you drop your phone in salt water, most of the time you're not going to get it back. I mean, especially the water's murky right now because there's been a lot of rain, but you can't see, the visibility isn't good. The water isn't clear like it was last year around this time. And, no one has their phone, though, usually. I mean, unless you're crazy, I'm not walking around with my phone in my hand. They've been walking around Horn Island, How many people left the phone on the boat? Was it just his phone when y'all left? Or other people have phones on the boat? And then he says, absolutely not. There was that at least, I had rowed out there on a different boat, like I told you. And I grabbed my I grabbed my phone when I left Palm Beach to get on the boat with Triton. To get on the boat with White because we were having, boat issues.
If you drop your phone in salt water, most of the time you're not going to get it back. Yeah. Especially the water's murky right now because there's been a lot of rain. You can't see, the visibility isn't good. The water isn't clear like it was last year around this time. And, no one has their phone though, usually. Unless you're crazy, I'm not walking around with my phone in my hand. They've been walking around Horn Island,
How many people left the phone on the boat? Was it just his phone when y'all left, or
right?
Other people have phones on the boat?
Absolutely not. There was at least, I rode out here on a different boat, like I told you, and I grabbed my phone when I left the Palm Beach to get on the boat with Triton. To get on the boat with White because we were having, boat issues. And when I got on the boat, there was phones everywhere on the console. Everywhere. There was everybody's phone that was sitting around the boat was on the console. We had phones that we didn't even know whose they were, you know, and people just leave their phone, especially when people are drinking and, they're not in the right state of mind. A lot of people are like, oh, I'll just leave my phone and I'll get it later, and that's the way it is around here. You don't take your phone and walk around the island. There's plenty of phones on the boat and, spread out between the 3 boats that we had. And I mean, we had 20 plus people on the spread between our 3 boats. So of course, everybody's phone was on the boat. I never saw someone in the water that day sitting with their phone in their hand, scrolling on anything or even taking pictures in the water. Yeah, someone might hop out the boat. You know, a lot of girls like to take pictures, you know, in the water, and so do guys, but you know, girls want to take pictures in the water. Half a second, you might hop out the boat and be like, oh, I'm snapping this picture of myself or of someone else. But as soon as I get back in the boat, I'm putting my phone up and I'm getting back in the water and I'm hanging out with my friends.
We want to know why, when it was time to leave, Nolan did not have his phone. Anybody who ever has been on a boat before or been to a beach, we know that when you're in and out the water, you might put your phone in the little box to keep it dry. When it was time for him to say, hey, I'm going to stay here with this girl that I just met today, mind you, everybody's drinking, everybody's intoxicated, everybody's doing underage drinking with alcohol provided by who? Did you guys steal the alcohol? Who gave you guys the alcohol? Everybody's under the influence. He meets this girl, Katie, that day. That was the first time he hung out with Katie that day. So he's intoxicated. You guys decide that you're going to leave. He doesn't want to get on the boat. And you want us to believe that, oh, it's completely normal. Like, yeah, people just get their phone later. He's with a girl that he doesn't know like that. He just met her that day. And he just, I'll get my phone later. Like, I'll just get it later. I had rode out there on a different boat, like I told you, and I grabbed my phone when I left the Palm Beach to get on the boat with Triton. To get on the boat with Wyatt, because we were having, boat issues. And when I got on the boat, there were phones everywhere on the console. Everywhere. There was everybody's phone that was sitting around the boat that was on the console. Like, we had phones that we didn't even know whose they were, and people just leave their phone, especially when people are drinking and they're not in the right state of mind. A lot of people are like, oh, I'll just leave my phone, I'll get it later, and that's the way it is around here. You don't take your phone and walk around the island. There was plenty of phones on the boat, and spread out between 3 boats that we had. And we had 20 plus people on the spread between our 3 boats. So of course, everybody's phone was on the boat. I never saw someone in the water that day sitting with their phone in their hand, scrolling on anything, or even taking pictures in the water. Yeah, someone might hop out the boat. A lot of girls like to take pictures, in the water, and so do guys. But, girls want to take pictures in the water. Half a second, you might hop out the boat and be like, oh, I'm snapping this picture of myself or of someone else. But as soon as I get back in the boat, I'm putting my phone up and I'm getting back in the water and I'm hanging out with my friends. Yeah, that's common sense, man. And describe to me, and this is Officer whoever, that's common sense, man. And describe to me what that day was like. I saw a video online. How hectic was it out here? Right now it's, I guess, barren. There's not a lot of people out here, but clearly that's not what it was on the 4th of July. So, like, how dense was it with people here? Well, look at all the videos, that are spread out online. And a lot of them, can't believe what you see all the time online. You know that better than anybody. But there was boats lined up all the way down the island, and there was rows. There was a front row, there was a second row. We were in the 3rd row where it drops off. And And then there was even boats in front of us that, and this was all the way down towards the east end of the island. And then there was people on the east tip, and we're on the north side now, but there was people on the south side too, lined up all the way down. And you talk to anybody on the coast about this, they know that, I mean, 4th of July is this hot spot. This is where people want to be. This is where people want to come out, hang out with their family and friends. And people say that, and so this is where he hops in and says, and people say that you guys just left Nolan behind. I've seen reports of people saying that you just left him. I see reports of people saying that you asked him to get on the boat. You told him to get on the boat. He didn't. What's the truth in that? All right, so let's go to the 10:42 mark.
Left Nolan behind. I've seen reports of people saying that you just left him. I see reports of people saying that you asked him to get on the boat. You told him to get on the boat. He didn't. What's the truth in that?
Well, Wyatt was having boat issues and the bilge wouldn't pump. So the bilge is basically a pump that releases water from your boat when water comes in. So I opened the back hatch and there's water up to the batteries. And that is obviously not good. There's water almost coming over the transom, which is where your motors sit and which is the, by the stern, like in the back part of the boat. So obviously we were in emergency. The boat, we're trying to save the boat. It's not like we didn't ask Nolan or we just left Nolan.
You see that cut? Why are you heavily editing what this boy is saying? Why are you heavily editing what he's saying? You're not trying to shape a narrative here. Why are we heavily editing what he's saying?
So obviously we were in emergency. The boat, we're trying to save the boat. It's not like we didn't ask Nolan or we just left Nolan. Nolan decided to stay on the island with the girl that he was with. And the girl is a witness to that too.
Yeah.
A pump that releases water from your boat when water comes in. So I opened the back hatch and there's water up to the batteries. And that is obviously not good. There's water almost coming over the transom, which is where your motors sit and which is the, by the stern, like in the back part of the boat. So obviously we were in emergency. The boat, we're trying to save the boat. It's not like we didn't ask Nolan or we just left Nolan. Nolan decided to stay on the island with the girl that he was with. And the girl is a witness to that too.
Yeah. I'm glad you cleared that up because I think it's important for people to have the context.
What did he clear? What did he clear up? So then he leaves off another cliffhanger, right? So he says, I open the back hatch. There's water up to the batteries. Let's see. Oh, he says, hold on. Let me find where I'm at. Hold on. What is the evidence? The evidence is that he told you that they asked him to get on the boat. Like, what's the evidence that they have that they asked Nolan to get on the boat? He says, you guys have evidence that you asked to put Nolan on the boat. What evidence? Because he told you so? That's the evidence?
To stay on the island with the girl that he was with. And the girl is a witness to that too.
Yeah. I'm glad you cleared that up because I think it's important for people to have the context of like what it was on that day, what happened, what didn't happen. And the beauty the beauty of all of this is that you guys have evidence to prove that, of course, you asked Nolan to come on and different things like that. So, but anyway, man, I appreciate you.
Yes, sir.
You know, give me a.
All right. So then he has another video. Okay. So he says, and the beauty of all of this is that you guys have evidence, right, to prove that. Of course, you asked Nolan to come on, and different things like that. So, but anyway, man, I appreciate you. Then he says, yes, sir. You know, giving me a rundown of the kind of what it was like on that day, and hopefully people can understand what the truth is and make their own decision on facts. And then it says, right, I mean, based off, like, you know, people, there's not a lot of people that are from Mississippi Gulf Coast that don't understand Horn Island and don't understand the way boating works. And, you know, boating is a tight-knit community. I like to fish, and I like to fish a lot. And, you know, there's, you know, everybody knows I know a lot of fishermen on the Gulf Coast. Like, what? Hold on, let me go to that. I'm trying not to play it, but then, like, reading it out, it's like, what is he saying? Like, what are you saying?
And make their own decision on facts.
Right. I mean, based off, like, you know, people, there's not a lot of people that are from the Mississippi Gulf Coast that don't understand Horn Island and don't understand the way boating works. And, you know, boating is a tight-knit community. I like to fish a lot, and, you know, there's, you know, everybody, a lot of people know a lot of people. Everybody knows everybody. I know a lot of fishermen on the Gulf Coast. They know me and my buddies because we like to go in the water all the time. I mean, that's what we do in the summer. And, I mean, a lot of people from the Gulf Coast know the truth behind, oh, you don't take your phone out the boat. You know, the little facts. It's a difficult subject.
You see the edit? You see the edit?
They know me and my buddies because we like to go in the water all the time. I mean, that's what we do in the summer. And, I mean, a lot of people from the Gulf Coast know the truth behind, oh, you don't take your phone out the boat. You know, the little facts. It's a difficult subject. This Horn Island's like 11 miles long, you know, not to be exact, but around.
He said, this is Horn Island, like 11 miles long, you know, not to be exact, but around 11 miles long. It's not like this is the sliver of an island. It's a fourth of a mile, like it's like a sandbar. No, this goes on to, even if we came around this corner right here, Brandon, we couldn't even see the end of the island because it was that long. Really? Yeah, I mean, I thought that was the end right there. No. I mean, it goes all the way down there. And I mean, it's a big island. There's a lot of people out here. And I mean, that's the truth. That's the way it is. And that was the end of that video. So that was the second video. And if you look at the comments, they swear that like what he says exonerates them. Oh, he's totally innocent. Oh, I believe they had nothing to do with it. And I don't know whether they did or didn't have anything to do with it, but this doesn't exonerate them to me. They didn't tell us much of anything. He said that he talked to Nolan a couple times and that Nolan's phone was on the boat. He came out on Bart's boat, and then Wyatt started to have boat issues. So then he went on Wyatt's boat, and then Nolan met this girl that he was talking to the whole day. And we didn't get many answers. Now, the third video, we get more answers, and we find out that Warren's brother had a fight that day. Now, we heard Tracestin's interview where Tracestin said that he was about to get into a fight and that his buddies was trying to hold him back because he was trying to fight somebody. Now, in the third video that Officer Griff uploads, Warren says that his brother got into a fight on the island.
Right.
And like, what? Explain that, because you guys got there around 10.
Yeah.
It's now 4:30.
Right.
People are still out there partying, and
Correct.
they're having a good time. But some
I didn't walk over. I ran over. I made a beeline. I didn't talk to anybody. Put my drink down and walked.
prematurely.
Right. I mean, Nolan was like a brother to me. Nolan lit up every room he walked in. 4th of July, everybody was out there. Nolan rode out on the Triton, and then we had a Palm Beach, 18 Palm Beach. There was 4 guys on that. The rest of the group, which was ranged from maybe 10 to 15 or 16 people on my buddy's tide line.
Yeah, so y'all pretty much having a good time. And then you guys get ready to leave prematurely.
Right.
And like, what? Explain that, because you guys got there around 10.
Yeah.
It's now 4:30.
Right.
People are still out there partying, and
Correct.
they're having a good time. But something happened to where it necessitated you guys to get the boat up and running. Can you explain that?
Yeah. So I looked up, I had a girl come up to me and say, "Hey, your brother just got in a fight." And obviously I have a younger brother, and that's who she was talking about. And I was freaked out. So I walked over to the beach, and I didn't walk over. I ran over. I made a beeline. I didn't talk to anybody. Put my drink down and walked over there. And my brother was kind of angry, and there was a lot going on, but someone was getting pulled away. I don't know who it was. And my brother was like, "Oh, I just got in a fight, and this guy punched me in the face," and I punched him right back. And then went to the ground, and my brother put him in an arm bar. And
was Nolan involved in any of this?
Absolutely not. When I was over there, it was a bunch of younger guys like my brother's age. And I mean, Nolan, I never saw Nolan over there.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. And, okay, sorry. I just lost my train of thought.
So you get ready to go. There's an issue with the boat.
Okay, yeah.
And this is
this led up to that. That's what I was saying.
So the fight happened with your brother, or a little scuffle. I'm assuming that it was cleared up.
You're right.
You got your brother out of that situation, and then how did you find out that this boat is sinking?
Well, I walked back over, and like we're probably around each other for a little bit. I mean, I wasn't thinking anything of it. I pulled my brother off the beach, and I was just like, "Listen, get in the water, hang out with us, calm down." I mean, he was calm, but I didn't want anything else to happen, And so once I got back over to the boat, I got on the Triton, and the Triton had probably about 6 inches of water up to the transom.
All right. So his brother gets into this fight. The guy puts his hands on his brother, punches him in the face. His brother punches him back. And then he goes to the boat, and then he notices all this water on the boat. Okay. Again, I know it's probably annoying, and you're probably like, "Well, just play it," but I gotta switch between both. All right. So hold on. Let me see, is this okay? All right, so he says that so I look over, I had a girl come up to me and say, "Hey, your brother just got in a fight." And obviously I have a younger brother, and that's who she's talking about. And I was freaked out. So I walk over to the beach, and I didn't walk over, I ran over. I made a beeline. I didn't talk to anybody, put my drink down and walked over there. And my brother was kind of angry. There was a lot going on, but someone was getting pulled away. I don't know who it was. And my brother was like, "Oh, and I just got into a fight, and this guy punched me in the face, and I punched him right back. And then I went to the ground, and my brother put him in an arm bar, And then Officer Bootlicker, he says, was Nolan involved in any of this? And then he says, absolutely not. When I was over there, it was a bunch of younger guys like my brother's age. And I mean, I never saw Nolan over there. Absolutely not. And but okay, sorry, I just lost my train of thought. And then Bootlicker says, so you get ready to go. There's an issue with the boat. Oh, okay, yeah. Like, that wasn't the last thing he was talking about. He was talking about the fight. But anyways, and this is what this led up to. Like, that's why I'm saying. So the fight happened with your brother, or a little scuffle, and I'm assuming that it was cleared up, right? You got your brother out of that situation. And then how did you find out that this boat is sinking? Well, and then he says, well, I walk back over, like, we're probably around each other for a little bit. I mean, I wasn't thinking anything of it. I told my brother, I pulled my brother off the beach, and I was just like, listen, get in the water, hang out with us, calm down. I mean, he was calm, but I didn't want anything else to happen, And so once I got back over to the boat, I got on the Triton, and the Triton had probably about 6 inches of water up to the transom. And I was freaked out because I'm good friends with Wyatt, and this was his boat. And, no water is coming out. No access water is coming out. And, it was a big issue because I think the reason was because there was so many people getting on and off the boat. And at some point, the boat was very, very crowded. And there was just a lot of people on. So it drags water in. And eventually, I think over time, we were there for a couple hours. The boat just started filling up with water. So I popped the starboard side hatch and the battery was completely underwater. And so the motor wouldn't trim down. I mean, my buddy would go trim it down, so the console, and it trimmed down, and then it come right back up. And so Wyatt's trying to throw the rear anchor, so we're caught, and he's, yelling at people. Everybody's kind of freaking out. And eventually I'm yelling at other people, trying to tell them, calm down. Like, where the boat you could possibly sink, and I'm not paying attention to everyone around me. I was paying attention to my buddy's boat. And that's what all my other friends that were on the boat were doing, trying to solve the problem. So you're on the boat. The water is getting up to a point where the boat may be disabled to where you couldn't get it out from Horn. Correct. Horn Island. So what happens after that? He says, Wyatt jumps in the water, tries to throw the rear anchor, and my buddy, I guess Bart, you're sitting, looking, trying to pull the trash out of the, hold on, let me just go to this part.
So you're on the boat now. The water is getting up to the point where the boat may be disabled to where you couldn't get it out. Correct. From Horn Island. So what happens after that?
Wyatt jumps in the water, tries to throw a rear anchor, and my buddy Meyer, you're sitting looking, trying to pull trash out the bilge. And the bilge is basically a pump that pulls the excess water out the boat. So the bilge was failing to work. So any excess water was just sitting in the boat. It wasn't getting pumped out. And I looked over the gunnel and I looked at the release hole for the bilge, and it was even with the water. So, I mean, we're all freaking out. All of our, we're not focused on anything else other than the boat. Well, then eventually my buddy Bart on the tide line is like, I'm going to pull y'all out to where we're out of all this, all this chaos. Cause we left at 4:30 and there were still just as many people there, if not more than when we got there. I mean, probably around the same amount. I mean, it was.
Pause. All right. So you hear him say his friend wanted to pull them out of the chaos. Is he talking about the chaos of the water getting into the boat? Or was there still chaos from the fight?
It's crazy. Like, there was a lot of people. And I mean, eventually Bart pulls us out. We left at 4:30, but we really weren't pulled out away from everybody. We were probably about a quarter mile out, and we had the towing strap pulled from, Bart's port side cleat or starboard side cleat, and he was on our starboard side bow. And so it was rubbing on his power pole. So Bart turned around, pulled up next to our boat, and we were just trying to get it situated. So that's when Wyatt called Cito. And Wyatt was like, calls him, because the cell service isn't great at the island, but once you can use your phone, but stuff might not just send. And it's not great. You got maybe one bar, it won't work that well. But once you get a little off the island, you have cell coverage. And even on the island, like, I called my mom when we were on the island, it was fine. Like,
All right, so it says, so Bart turned around, pulled up next to our boat, and we're just trying to get it situated. So that's when Wyatt called Cito, and Wyatt was like, calls him, because cell service isn't great on the island. But once you can use your phone, but stuff might not descend. Like, it's not great. You got maybe one bar. It don't work that well. But once you get a little off the island, you have cell coverage. And even on the island, like, I called my mom when we were on the island, it was fine. Like, we had enough cell coverage to make a phone call or shoot a text over, but you don't have enough cell coverage to, like, send a picture, for example. So I want to go back. So I want to touch on that real quick, because the phone thing came up at some point. And so when you guys got off the boat, yeah, people were taking their phones off the boat. Or is that not typical? Because I know Nolan's phone was left on the boat, right?
People taking their phones off the boat, or is that not typical? Because I know that Nolan's phone was left on the boat,
right?
Even though, after you guys had left. So can you explain that? Because I think people need to understand this a little clearer.
Yeah.
Was it typical for people to have their phones left on boats, or did they keep their phones in the water?
Yeah. Everybody kind of goes out to the island to get away from, their phones and everything else. So I know I got on the boat to get away from, just the regular world. And no, when you're waist deep in water, no one's carrying their phone in their hand, especially at Horn Island. The water has been very, very murky because of the rain. And when it's just very risky. If you're going to have your phone in the water, some people might for a couple minutes and, like, maybe taking some pictures of each other. I know a lot of girls like to take pictures in the water at Horn Island. Guys do too. Like, people like to take pictures, and but a lot of the pictures you see are on the boat for a reason. And so, no, if someone is on their phone in the water, they're using it real quick and then putting it right back on the boat. We were all waist deep in water. No one's sitting there scrolling on their phone. I never saw that once, and I've never seen that once. And I've been out the Highland my whole life. That's just not something people do. People aren't on their phones. And everybody has their phone, yes, but it's always on the boat. No one's getting off the boat with their phone. So.
And so you guys get ready to leave out of there, getting towed out.
Yeah.
And then where's Nolan in this situation?
Well, the last time I saw Nolan was 3:00, and Nolan was cradling a girl in his arms, Katie, Katie. And Katie, Nolan was sitting there, and the last time I saw him, I looked at Nolan, and Nolan was like shaking his head, laughing, and I was like, dude, you crazy.
You know, when there's two cameras, normally when there's two cameras, right, they have a camera that's facing Officer Tatum. And then they have a camera that's also capturing Warren. He's given this explanation, but they take the camera that points to Warren where we can see him explain this, and they put us to the camera on Tatum.
I was like just joking with him. And, but anyway, Nolan, that was the last time I laid eyes on him. But when we were leaving, obviously no one is getting left at the island that came with us unless they demanded to, be there and asked, this is a very common thing at Horn Island. When you're out there, a lot of people ride out there with someone and in with somebody else all the time. I've done that 100 times. It's a very common thing, but Nolan was sitting by the boat with that Katie girl, and my buddy yelled for Nolan, get on the boat.
Mind you, he just said the last time that he laid eyes on Nolan was 3:00. He then said when they left the island was 4:30. Then he says he overhears, mind you, he didn't lay eyes on him at 4:30 when they left. The last time that he physically saw Nolan was 3:00. That's what he just said. Then he says, I overhear my buddy telling Nolan to get on the boat. Like, normally, wouldn't you look to see that he's actually talking to Nolan? Like, what happened in that hour and a half?
We're leaving. The boat's having issues, and no, he didn't say that, but he was panicking. Nolan, get the F on the boat. Get on the boat. And Nolan said, no, I'm staying out here. I'm going to ride in with somebody else. And it's not uncommon to hear, but it's not like my buddy asked him one time. My buddy asked Nolan multiple times to get on the boat. Nolan, get on the boat. Get on the boat. We're leaving. If you're coming, you got to come now. And Nolan made a decision to stay out on the island. And like he said,
how many people heard that? Were there just
at least
just
5 everyone that was on our boat right there, because the Palm Beach had already left. My buddy went ahead and went home on the Palm Beach. And
mind you, they left at 4:30, but the last time that he's saying that he saw him was at 3. But he's telling us about this exchange that happened right before they left. Which was 4:30.
Three guys on the way back. And Nolan wasn't the only person to ride out there with us and in with somebody else. I mean, we had multiple people in our group that rode out with us and rode in on someone else's boat. And that, like I said, that's not an uncommon thing to do. I mean, a lot of people do that. I could name probably 50 people out there that day that ran out with somebody and ran back in with somebody else. So, I mean, it's not like it's an uncommon thing, but it's not like we just left him there or my friends just left him there. Nolan made a decision to stay on the island after my friends asked him multiple times and told him to get on the boat, and he decided to stay.
And I heard the girl that he was with, Katie, had text somebody.
Yeah.
All right. So let me go back. All right, so he says, and so you guys get ready to leave out there. You're getting towed out. And then where is Nolan in this situation? Well, Nolan was the last time I saw Nolan was 3:00. And Nolan was cradling a girl in his arms named Katie. That you know, Katie. And Katie and Nolan was sitting there the last time I saw him. I looked at Nolan, and Nolan was like shaking his head, laughing. And I was like, dude, you crazy. I was like just joking with him. And but anyways, Nolan, the last time I laid eyes on him, but when we were leaving, obviously no one is getting left at the island that came with us unless they demanded to, you know, be there and ask. You know, this is a very common thing at Horn Island when we're out there. A lot of people ride out there with someone in and with somebody else all the time. I've done that 100 times. You know, it's very common thing. But Nolan was sitting by the boat with that Katie girl, and my buddy yelled for Nolan. Nolan, get on the boat. We're leaving the boat. The boat's having issues. And no, he didn't say that, but he was panicking. Nolan, get the F on the boat. Get on the boat. And Nolan said, no, I'm staying out here. I'm going to ride with somebody else. And it's not uncommon to hear, but it's not like my buddy asked him one time. My buddy asked Nolan multiple times to get on the boat. Nolan, get on the boat. Get on the boat. We're leaving and we're coming. You ought to come on. And Nolan made a decision to stay out on the island. And like he said, you know, and then it says, Mr. Bootlicker says, how many people heard that? Where they're just at least 5 to, I mean, everyone that was on our boat right there, because the Palm Beach had already left. My buddy went ahead and went home on the Palm Beach, and 3 guys on the way back. And Nolan wasn't the only person to ride out there with us and in with somebody else. I mean, we have multiple people in our group that ride out with us and rode in someone else's boat. And that's like I said, that's not an uncommon thing to do, you know? I mean, there's a lot of people who do that. I can name probably 50 people out there that day that ran out with somebody and ran back with somebody else. Warren, name them. Name them. If you could name 50 people that rode out there in one boat and rode back in another boat, 50 people. Most people who go out on a boat go back on the same boat they came with. But if you could name 50 people who rode in on one boat and then 50 people rode back on another boat, name them. So, I mean, it's not like an uncommon thing, but it's like it's not like we just left him there or my friends just left him there. No one made a decision. Nolan made a decision to stay on the island after my friends asked him multiple times and told him to get on the boat, and he decided to stay. And I heard the girl, and then this is a bootlicker, and I heard the girl that he was with, Katie, had text somebody that she heard people yelling, correct? For Nolan to get on. Is that true? And I have a picture of that. She texts my buddy, and I know the next day everybody was panicking and everybody was texting Katie, you know, because she was obviously seen with Nolan the whole day at the island. Katie sent a message to my buddy on the next day and said, you know, this is the last time I saw him. You know, he's really sweet, but she also mentioned that the last time she saw Nolan was when my buddy was yelling at him to get on the boat. And she was right there to see Nolan decided not to. Yeah, so well, let me click off of this one.
The next day and said, you know, this is the last time I saw him, you know, he's really sweet. But she also mentioned that the last time she saw Nolan was when my buddy was yelling at him to get on the boat. And she was right there to see that Nolan decided not to.
Yeah. And so you guys get in the boat, you start to get towed in, and you.
And so I had to come here to play it because sometimes when I'm reading it, it sounds choppy because there's edits that they have in between. So it's like, it's quick little, slick little edits that they have. So it kind of doesn't sound right sometimes when I'm reading it because of how they're heavily editing this thing.
Make it back. Now explain how did you get to the point where you were concerned about Nolan? Because obviously you said, hey, Nolan, y'all need to, or somebody, not
when
you,
did I get
but
to that point?
You guys had made mention Nolan need to get on a boat.
Yeah.
He didn't.
Yeah.
You guys get back to wherever you're going.
Right.
Explain that. Did you guys go back to somebody's house, or you guys like what happened there? And then when did you feel like, well, wait a minute, where's Nolan?
Right. Okay. Well, running in was very chaotic. I mean, Nolan chose to stay on the island, so my focus wasn't on anything else other than the boat, you know, because if the boat doesn't get in, then no one gets in. You know, I don't want to sink out there on my buddy's boat, and no one does. But my buddy Wyatt jumped out and pulled the plug on the boat once we kind of got out there because he got the motor to trim down. And the motor trimmed down. My buddy Wyatt pulled the plug and we planed off. We moved all the way to the front of the boat so we could plane off. And eventually we planed off and the boat was running. So when you're planed off and you have water in the boat and you're hauling, you know, we're going pretty fast. We're going probably 40, 42 miles an hour.
You see how it jumps? We were talking about Katie. We was just talking about Katie. In the text message that she sent. We jumped back to the boat. We were just talking about how Katie said that he's such a sweet guy, and the last time that I saw him was when you guys were telling him to get on the boat. That's the last time I saw him. So Katie's saying, y'all told him to get on the boat, and that's the last time I saw him. But y'all are saying that you guys were frustrated, panicking, yelling at people. And he goes from talking about Katie in this text message, and then it jumps to trimming off the boat. Let me bring that back so that y'all can see what I'm talking about.
Nolan need to get on a boat.
Yeah.
He didn't.
Yeah.
You guys get back to wherever you're going.
Right.
Explain that. Did you guys go back to somebody's house, or you guys like what happened there? And then when did you feel like, well, wait a minute, where's Nolan?
Right. Okay. Well, running in was very chaotic. I mean, Nolan chose to stay on the island, so my focus wasn't on anything else other than the boat, you know, because if the boat doesn't get in, then no one gets in. You know, I don't want to sink out there on my buddy's boat, and no one does. But my buddy Wyatt jumped out and pulled the plug on the boat once we kind of got out there because he got the motor to trim down. And the motor trimmed down. My buddy Wyatt pulled the plug and and we planed off. We moved all the weight to the front of the boat so we could plane off. And eventually we planed off and the boat was running. So when you're planed off and you have water in the boat and you're hauling, we're going pretty fast. We're going probably 40, 42 miles an hour. And so all that excess water that was built up in the boat is coming out of the boat. So, I mean, that's what we had to do. So we ran into Fort Bayou, and we didn't just run straight to my buddy's grandparents' house. We ran into Fort Bayou. A couple of us jumped in the water, and Wyatt, like the whole reason for the stop was so Wyatt could hop in and put the plug back in the boat.
All right. So now he's explaining the GPS data, right? So if you guys heard the news, they were able to get the GPS data from the boat, from Wyatt's boat. Now, we have not found out about Bart's boat that he came in on and his GPS data. We didn't hear about the Python or the Triton or whatever other boat GPS data. But in his GPS data, there was 4:30. It showed them leaving at 4:30. Matter of fact, let me see if I have the GPS data. So right here it shows the boat GPS data. All right, so it says they got the boat left for Horn Island at 9:56 a.m. Then it arrived at the island at 11:14 a.m. And then at 4:31 p.m. is when it left from Horn Island. And then at 6:06, the boat returns to the dock. All right. And then I think there was I don't think this one has all of the movement. There was more movement. Hold on, let me see. There was more movement than that with the boat. Hold on. Let me do a quick Google real quick. Nolan Wells friend GPS data.
The STX for $500 a month, or a 26 Ford Explorer Active for $450 a month. Both.
All right, after this ad, we're gonna let's hear the GPS data, because that's kind of what he's inserting there.
Partners revealing some new
developments in the Nolan Wells case we've been following.
Yeah, our CBS News partners revealing some new GPS data from the Mississippi Department of Marine Resources, tracking the movements of the boat Nolan Wells was on before he disappeared July 4th.
Will Polston joins us now live from the boat launch with more details. Good morning to you, Will.
Hey, good morning, Bill and Brandy. Good morning, everybody joining us at home. That's right, the Mississippi Department of Marine Resources releasing the GPS data of where the boat that Nolan Wells was on July 4th and its whereabouts on that day, just to kind of narrow down that timeline a little bit more. Here's what we know from the data. 9:56 a.m., the boat left land and then went towards Horn Island, which it arrived around 11:14 a.m. Then the GPS data says that the boat left the island around 4:31 p.m. before traveling into Fort Bayou and returning to the dock at 6:06. Later that night, the boat went to the boat launch here at Fort Bayou and was pulled out of the water and taken back to the owner's home in Biloxi. Now, a DMR report also says that the owner of the boat, his mother, and one other person with Wells are all cooperating with the investigation. Now, this doesn't necessarily point to one person or point to anything in particular, but now there's concrete evidence of when and where the boat was at what times. We have heard reports that the boys left the island right around at 4:30, and now that's starting to, that is being backed up now. We'll see exactly what this does for the investigation as time continues. Live in Ocean Springs, Will Polston, WLOX News Now.
I seen something that had more movement, but whatever. We'll continue.
So then after that, we went and docked it, and I went back to my buddy's house, and we ate and napped for a little bit. It was a long day at the island, so we were all tired, and eventually we go over to a girlfriend of mine. She was having people over for 4th of July. We were doing like fireworks and stuff, so we all went over there to swim and hang out. And
this infamous picture that I've seen online of Nolan and
all right. So they have these boat issues. They all leave. They end up back on land. And then they end up at a friend's house that has people over swimming at a pool. So then what he wants to know is, well, there was this picture of Nolan at a pool party. You're telling me that you guys left the island and you went to this your homegirl's house that had a pool, and there was a picture that was circulating. Hold on, let me see if I have the picture. All right. So this is the picture that he's about to inquire about. All right. So this is the picture that was posted by Ben Crump. And a lot of people were alleging that this picture took place right after the incident, the boat issues, and later that night. Well, he says that, well, yeah, and I'm gonna play it so you guys can hear for yourself, but I just kind of want to put everything in perspective. So he says, well, yeah, we were at my friend's house at this pool, and all, there was a bunch of my buddies there where, swimming or whatnot. But he's saying that this picture that other people allege had a timestamp of, I think people were saying that this picture was taken on July 5th at like 1 a.m. or something like that. He's saying that even though this picture matches up to what he's describing, this happened a week prior. Okay? So he's saying that this picture happened the week before. And so I believe one of their friends said that it wasn't Nolan in this picture, but he's saying, yes, this is Nolan in the picture. However, this picture happened the week before. All right. So yes, he's saying this picture is authentic. However, he's saying even though they all went after and got in the pool, this isn't from that get in the pool. You get what I'm saying?
in the water in the swimming pool.
Yeah.
This infamous picture that I've seen online of Nolan in the water in the swimming pool.
Yeah.
Where is this picture associated with? Because you said you guys went back to swim. Nolan wasn't with you.
Yeah.
So where is this picture at? Like, what's the context around that picture that's been floating?
That picture is taken on June 27th, a week before the 4th of July. We all went to a friend of ours in Pass Christian. We have a lot of friends from Bay St. Louis, Pass Christian. We all went over there to hang out, and
And Nolan was in that picture.
Nolan was in that picture, and if you look in the picture, my arm is around Nolan in that picture. And I mean, that was a week.
Let's look at the picture. Let me make the picture bigger. Hold on 1 second. He says if you look at the picture, his arm was around Nolan in the picture. Let me blow up the picture. Hold on. All right. So he's saying that that's him, that's Nolan. And then the person who has his arm around Nolan is him. And this isn't the 4th of July, even though normally on the 4th of July is when people are really patriotic, right? Like, people are normally patriotic. And you see the guy at the bottom left, he shaved USA in his chest. But I guess he shaved USA in his chest, not on the day that people are normally patriotic. This was a week before. All right. So let's continue.
Before the 4th of July. So that picture is not associated within even the same. I mean, that was like a week before. So, yeah.
So you guys are now.
Let's zoom in on this picture. Hold on. And the reason why this was so alarming, because that day, Nolan Wells was supposed to have had on blue shorts. And in the picture, let me pull up a few things here, which, I mean, I didn't see the metadata on the thing, so I don't know. Hold on one second. Let me pull up. Let me pull up a couple of things. Zoom in on this picture a little bit. Let's see. Hold on. All right. So, this is a little closer up. You can see the guy who has the USA shaved on his chest right there. And then you see, hold on, closer up. And then you see where it looks like he possibly has blue shorts, the same. Maybe he wore the same shorts. Maybe they're the same ones. And it's just a coincidence that he wore the same looking shorts. Hold on one second. Because sometimes we wear the same clothes more than once. So, I mean, he could have just wore the shorts, same shorts, different occasion. That's possible. Hold on, let me. Okay, I was trying to make it bigger for y'all.
at swimming and having a good time at a lady friend's house.
Right. I never got to the pool. I talked to her dad for a while, and I mean, all my friends were downstairs. I went upstairs, talked to her dad. We were talking about boats and stuff, and I've been with my friends all day. I was just talking to everybody, but
So you talked to the young lady's dad, and then how long was it before you realized, or you guys realized that, well, where's Nolan at?
I mean, I went back downstairs, and all my friends were just hanging out, and my buddy Wyatt had addressed, talking about Nolan, and I was like, well, where is Nolan? Have y'all heard from him? And he was like, no, we haven't. And I was like, okay, well, it's a little concerning. Like, I mean, I'm not freaking out or anything, but like, I'm trying to find out where Nolan is. So I texted Javon, and I was like, hey, and also a couple other buddies that I had at the island. I was like, hey, have y'all seen Nolan? Did he ride in with y'all? And all the buddies were like, no. Well, I texted Javon, and I was like, hey, can you send me Miss Christine's number? Because I haven't heard from Nolan. And if she hasn't heard from Nolan, then I'm calling the Coast Guard. And so eventually Javon sends me her number.
Who is her? That's
Miss Christine.
Miss Christine is
Nolan's.
All right, so Javon is the black boy that this is Javon. Hold on. Javon is the one who also made a statement to TMZ. And this is who he's talking about. One second. When he says Javon, this is who he's talking about. All right. So this is Javon right here. Javon also did an interview with TMZ as well. And so he says, we noticed that he was gone. And if he was gone and Katie hadn't talked to him either, then we're going to call the Coast Guard. So he contacts Javon so that they can call Christine.
Nolan's mom.
Yeah. And I walked down to the dock because, I mean, there was a lot of people at Ava's. Not a lot, but, there was probably 15 of our friends there. And I was just like, walked down to the dock with a couple of my buddies, and I got on the phone I called Miss Christine, called her the first time. She didn't answer. I called her a second time, and I got on the phone with her, and I asked her if she had heard from Nolan. She said no. And I said, all right, well, don't freak out. I'm going to call the Coast Guard. And this was at about 11 o'clock.
What happened to calling Katie? What happened to calling Katie? Why are we jumping from calling his mom to calling the Coast Guard? What happened to calling Katie?
So what's your intent in calling the Coast Guard, right? Because right now, Nolan could be with a chick. He could be with somebody else.
Right.
He could have gone back with somebody else. What made you concerned enough that you felt like you couldn't weigh it out anymore? You had to call the Coast Guard.
Well, I mean, like I said, my friends and I have been on the water our whole life. Stuff happens. People die all the time. I know people that have died out there. And, it's a fun place to be, but it's also a very, very dangerous place to be if you're not handling it right. And Nolan, so I hadn't heard from him. And obviously, I'm thinking I'd way rather be safe than sorry. I mean, I would rather call the Coast Guard 100 times and lose my mind over it, my buddy be okay, than, not, and me not know where he is and him not be okay. And so I called the Coast Guard, and I talked to them on the phone for like 20 minutes, gave him a description, what Nolan was wearing, the last place we were at, the last time I saw him, who we were with, what boat we were on, the conditions of the water, just,
What happened to calling Katie, though? People die all the time, And I've seen people die. Like this no big deal. Like maybe he died. I mean, he didn't say maybe he died, but like what? Let me see what is timestamp? Oh, 17. All right. So he says da 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 da. Okay. So what's your intent in calling the Coast Guard, right? Because Nolan could be with a chick. He could be with somebody else. He would have gone back with somebody else. What made you concerned enough that you felt you couldn't weigh it out anymore and you had to call the Coast Guard? And so he says, well, I mean, like I said, my friends and I have been on the water our whole life. Stuff happens. People die all the time. I know people that have died out there. And, it's a fun place to be, but it's also a very, very dangerous place to be if you're not handling it right. And so I hadn't heard from him. And obviously, I'm thinking I'd way rather be safe than sorry. I mean, I would rather call the Coast Guard 100 times and lose my mind over it and my buddy be okay than, not. And, me not know where he is and him not be okay. And so I called the Coast Guard and I talked to them on the phone for like 20 minutes, gave him a description, what Nolan was wearing, the last place we were at, and the last time I saw him. Who were we with, and what boat we were on, the conditions of the water, just a summary. And I called Miss Christine back after, and I talked to her, and I said that I got in contact with the Coast Guard. I'm not sure who she called or what she did, but I think she said she was going to make a couple phone calls to me, either DMR or Jackson County Sheriff's Office. And I mean, yeah, that's what I was thinking. Worst case scenario, like, I mean, I would rather be safe than sorry about this, Yeah, so you called, so it seems like you called the mom immediately, right? Probably the first phone call that she got from anybody. That's the first phone call, like, at least I made. And I would assume that's the first phone call she got from anybody because Javon hadn't called her. Child, now he threw shade at Javon.
You called, so it seems like you called mom immediately.
Right.
Probably the first phone call that she got from anybody.
That's the first phone call, like, at least I made. And I would assume that's the first phone call she got from anybody because Javon hadn't called her. And, there's nothing wrong with that, but Javon hadn't called her. And, I mean, I was just worried about my friend. Stuff happens out there, boat problems. It could be anything. But, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that happens out there. And I was just worried about my friend.
And so you guys made that call, nothing that night. And I'm assuming you wake up the next day, and then what happens?
I wake up the next day at 7:30, and I had my dad had text me because obviously Nolan's photo was all over Facebook. And I just saw it everywhere, and I was freaked out because I was like, oh my gosh, that I assume Nolan's just we have been drinking all day, and like that's just he's sleeping somewhere, and that he's okay. But I didn't want to believe that if we didn't know for sure. So I mean, the next day I woke up and my stepdad walked in the room and he said, hey, have you heard anything about Nolan? Like, what's going on? Because I haven't spoke to him. And he was like, yeah, no, like, I don't know. I had just gotten up and he was like, all right, well, we're going and we're getting on the boat and looking for him. And I was like, okay, yeah. So I got my buddy Ricky, I got my buddy Brooks, I got my buddy Jax. My mom came on the boat with my stepdad and we all went out there and looked. When I got there, there was dozens of DMR boats, helicopters, planes flying over Horn Island. And this just wasn't just Horn Island. There was also Ship Island they were looking at. I'm sure in Chandelier Island.
I just saw it everywhere, and I was freaked out because I was like, oh my gosh, like that, I assumed, Nolan's just, we had been drinking all day and like, that he's just sleeping somewhere and, that he's okay. But I didn't want to believe that if we didn't know for sure. So, I mean, next day I woke up and my stepdad walked to my room and he said, hey, like, have they heard anything about Nolan? Like, what's going on? Because I hadn't spoke to him. And he was like, I was like, yeah, no, like, I don't know. I had just gotten up. And he was like, all right, well, we're going and getting on the boat and looking for him. And I was like, okay, yeah. So I got my buddy Ricky, I got my buddy Brooks, and I got my buddy Jax. My mom came on the boat with my stepdad and I, and we all went out there and looked. When I got out there, there was next day I woke up and
then it was the blink. What was that?
I didn't want to believe that if we didn't know for sure. So, I mean, next day I woke up and my stepdad walked to my room and he said, hey, like, have they heard anything about Nolan? Like, what's going on? Because I hadn't spoke to him. And he was like, I was like, yeah, no, like, I don't know. I had just gotten up. And he was like, all right, well, we're going and getting on the boat and looking for him. And I was like, okay, yeah. So I got my buddy Ricky, I got my buddy Brooks, and I got my buddy Jax. My mom came on the boat with my stepdad and I, and we all went out there and looked. When I got out there, there was dozens of DMR boats, helicopters, planes flying over Horn Island. And this wasn't just Horn Island. There was also Ship Island they were looking at, I'm sure, and Chandelier Island, Petty Boy. I mean, it wasn't just Horn Island specifically, but where I was at Horn, there were boats everywhere, and not just like random boats, but like, marine resource boats and, cops and, the whole nine. Like, it wasn't like there was just a couple boats looking for Nolan. There was planes and helicopters and, everybody. So.
There was planes, helicopters, and everybody. So, and then after this, obviously they didn't find Nolan that day, right? And so what was your reaction like when you heard the news, or how did you hear the news that they found Nolan's body? Now, mind you, this is supposed to be his best friend. If you're recounting, and again, everybody grieves differently, and everybody doesn't cry, and everybody's not criers, right? And I don't expect him to be a crier, but you would think that the moment that you're looking for your friend, you're panicking. Oh my God, nobody's still heard from him. Like, oh my God, like, let's rush to get to the island to look for him. You would think that in retelling his story, he would be reliving those moments and have some of that kind of panic in retelling the story. The whole thing is like this monotone, no type of sadness, no reaction, no, you know what I mean? Like, when I'm retelling a story, even if I'm not crying or something, if I'm reliving the moments where my buddy's missing, we don't know where he is, nobody's heard from him, it's the next day, and there's all of this ruckus on Facebook of his pictures being plastered everywhere. And you kind of would be reliving that in some type of way. He doesn't have any type of emotion at all. Like, any emotion. And again, I'm not saying that he needs to be crying, but sometimes even telling the story, you kind of like have an influx in the way that you talk, or, you know, you kind of get choked up at certain points because you kind of trying to retell it. It's just, yeah, me and my buddies, my stepdad, he came to me, he said that, you know, where's Nolan? And we just got on the boat, and it's like he doesn't really give a damn, for real. And he wants us to believe that this is his best friend that he loves so deeply, and they had this tight-knit friendship, and it just doesn't sound like that to me.
Oh.
And then after this, you know, obviously they didn't find Nolan that day.
Right.
And so what was your reaction like when you heard the news, or how did you hear the news that they found Nolan's body?
Well, the next day, well, it got to be about 1 o'clock on July 5th. And I was like, my mind started to turn. I was like, man, you know, if he's not awake yet, like, where is he? Like, you know, like I got very, very worried.
And this is very intentional, right? I have gotten lazy in my editing, but I'm very good at editing stuff. And I've had times where I have a camera on me and a camera on something else. Officer Tatum is not talking right now. Why are we taking the camera off of him and putting it on you? Normally, when something like this happens, it's because you don't want people to see what's on the other camera. But he's the one talking. Why are we looking at you?
And, you know, I was with my buddy Brooks the next day, and we're driving, and my buddies were texting my group chat. They were like, and why, like,
oops,
I'm looking for him. And I was like, okay, yeah. So I got my buddy Ricky, I got my buddy Brooks, I got my buddy Jax. My mom came on the boat with my stepdad and I, and we all went out there and looked. When I got out there was dozens of DMR boats on Petty Boy. I mean, it wasn't just Horn Island specifically, but resource boats. And
then after this, you know, obviously they didn't find Nolan that day.
Right.
And so what was your reaction like when you heard the news, or how did you hear the news that they found Nolan's body?
Well, the next day, well, it got to be about 1 o'clock on July 5th. And I was like, my mind started to turn. I was like, man, you know, if he's not awake yet, like, where is he? Like, you know, like I got very, very worried. And, you know, I was with my buddy Brooks the next day, and we're driving.
Well, when was y'all gonna call Katie? But you still haven't called Katie yet. He was last seen with Katie. When are we gonna get to you calling her?
And my buddies were texting my group chat. They were like, hey, listen. And then I got a phone call from my buddy Tracestin, and he was like, hey, man, they just found his body. And I was like, I wanted to have hope, but it was really, really hard to have hope when they haven't found your buddy in the last 2 days. And, but there's still a little bit of hope there, you know, like maybe, you know, he's not gone, and maybe, you know, he's okay. But my reaction was just, I was with my buddy Brooks, and I broke down. I mean, I haven't experienced death a lot, but especially with someone I'm as close with as Nolan. And
I mean, I thought it was a regular thing that people just be dying on the island. At first you said, Yeah, well, it's regular. Like, the reason why I wanted to call Coast Guards, because people just be dying out there. I've seen people die before. Like, now, well, I never seen people die like close, like, boy.
I mean, I broke down and I sat there on my buddy Brooks' shoulder and I cried. And I was upset. I made a couple phone calls to my buddies and checked up on my buddies because, I care about my buddies too. I mean, like, we're all experienced this. Like, we all realized at the same time. We all heard the news at the same time. Like, he's gone. And so it was really, really hard on me. I mean,
I care about my buddies too, like, he gives certain details to where it's like, yeah, I called my other buddies because I care about my other buddies too. Like, who thinks that you didn't care about your other buddies? You already told us that it's a tight-knit community. Like, you guys are brothers. Like, ooh, good catch. She said he never says my buddy when referring to Nolan. Someone says, I never want to hear the word buddy again. Somebody says, yeah, this interview is a bunch of bull. Someone says, this interview was working my nerves. And why is he making it about him and the boats and the island and everyone else but Nolan? And Brandon kept saying that he was proving a point, but he just made things confusing. Someone says, why is it my buddies and not our buddies? Someone says, he's taking the heat off of himself. Someone says, I just want him to tear up just once. Another person says, people die every day. A quote by Warren and Cameron. All right. So, ooh, not Brandon's wife catching a stray. You said she don't got no lips and she be talking a whole lot of cash money. Sure.
I've never experienced something like this, and it was traumatic. I mean, I could tell you where and when I was there, when I got that phone call, where I was. And I just remember, like, it was insane. Like, I can't even put into words how upset I was, and how upset my friends were. So,
and then
I can't even put into words how upset I was, and how upset my friends were. And then Bootlicker says, and then comes the stories and the backlash and the craziness. I mean, you guys are now hearing that you're responsible for it. You did it. You killed Nolan. So what's the next step? Did you guys ever engage with the police or?
Stories and backlash and the craziness. I mean, you guys are now hearing that you're responsible for it. You did it. You killed Nolan. So what was the next step? Did you guys ever engage with police or?
Yeah. So the first time I talked to the police was July 7th. I talked to the lead investigator and I told him my whole story, top to bottom, dotted every I, crossed every T. I told him everything I knew, every little detail. I mean, everything I could, tell them to try to figure something out,
Were you the only one to talk to the cops or?
No, of course
some
not.
Other guys?
Every person that was included, especially, the guys that you see on social media, everybody cooperated with the police fully. No one was with us.
It's funny that he says everybody cooperated with the police fully, but when his Black friends did interviews, they said that the police had not even contacted them. They specifically asked Javon, had he talked to the cops as he was out there, and Javon did an interview and said that the cops hadn't even talked to him. They also asked Tracestin, and I gotta see what Tracestin said, but I remember Javon saying that the police hadn't talked to him, and they were like, well, you know, you would think that the police would have, like, hit you up. I told them everything I know, every little detail. I mean, everything I could, you know, tell them to try to figure out something out. You know, were you the only one that talked to the cops or some other guys? You know, every person that was included, especially, you know, the guys that you see on social media, everybody cooperated with the police fully. You know, Nolan was with us on the way out, and he rode out on the boat with us. So, I mean, we were the first people to get questioned. I mean, we cooperated with the police the first time they called us, and, you know, we talked to him, you know, as soon as they needed, and we were fully cooperative. And here comes Bootlicker. And we see Benjamin Crump coming in town and made it about race, right? What's your feelings about that? Do you think that any of this had anything to do with race? Because, I mean, obviously something happened to Nolan. It appears that you guys may have not been involved at all. I say may not. It's no evidence that you were involved at all. You guys had left. But do you think that there was a racial component to any of this? Of course not. I mean, I think if Nolan ever felt the most little bit uncomfortable around us, which we never gave him a reason to, but if he did, he wouldn't hang out around us. But if you guys look on, you know, like my friends have had Nolan posted all over our social medias, you know, since freshman year in high school. Like, if Nolan ever felt uncomfortable with us, why would he be hanging out with us all the time? I mean, every time, every day. We're back from college. We hang out and we're around each other all the time. So absolutely not. I would never look at Nolan any other way than I would any of my other friends. I mean, he was like a brother to me. And then it says, you guys have been interviewed by law enforcement. All of you guys have given statements. But then I think that there's a part associated with this that's being rumored out in the public, that this is a situation with the cell phone, potential deletion of messages. When did that occur and what happened there? So right after he wanted to know about the deleted messages, what do you think happened? The video cuts off, and then he's going to milk that answer into another video. So he leaves off every video on a cliffhanger so that he can siphon as much money and get as much cash that he can get from this story that he supposedly cares about these boys and want their truth out there. But he needs to sprinkle little pieces of information in a series so that he can maximize the biggest amount of money. Instead of just putting it all out there, he's piecemealing the information to drag this out so that people keep coming to him for more so that he can get more money, but yet has the nerve and the audacity to try to say that everybody else is using it for a cash grab, but he's the one trying to make the most money out of this situation by dragging out this story in this interview, by softballing the questions, never giving him pushback, making him clarify anything, or making him stay on topic when he starts to ramble and go outside of the story. So he's going to piecemeal some more and squeeze out as much cash that he can out of this because he cares about them so much and he wants to exonerate them, and he's not a grifter like Al Sharpton and Ben Crumpton. He's not out for the money, but yet he's scrounging every single dollar that he can. Let's go to the comments to see what some people have to say after this, because like I said, he ends the video off on that question.
In college, we hang out and we're around each other all the time. So absolutely not. I would never look at Nolan any other way than I would any of my other friends. I mean, he was like a brother to me.
You guys had been interviewed by law enforcement. Mm-hmm. All of you guys have given statements. But then I think that there's a part associated with this that's being rumored out in the public, and that is the situation with the cell phone, potential deletion of messages. When did that occur, and what happened there?
Part 4 coming soon. More grifting, more milking of the story, more moolah, more money, more money. Oh, what a race grifter. Okay, you try to say that you're trying to clear these boys, you care about their story, but you conveniently want to get the most money. And that's not that of somebody that's genuine at all. Like, if you genuinely cared about what these boys' stories were, you would let the raw tape go and you would put it all out there. All right, so let's read some of these comments. Hold on, let me bring myself down. And then if there's anybody who wants to come up and give your thoughts, here's the link to the stream if you guys want to come up. Also, if you guys want to donate to the channel, y'all know y'all can, because I'm not going to act like I don't want no money, okay? Because, child, we here to make some money and we're not going to front about it. If you want to donate to the channel, Cash App Neek at Night Media, spelled exactly like my channel. Night is N-I-T-E. All right, Neek at Night Media. All right. Let's read through some of what people are saying. It says, and all this time, while the boat is filling up, Nolan is not around. When did you guys tell him you were leaving? Another person says, I genuinely feel for these young men, especially if there was no foul play. Losing a friend and carrying that kind of guilt is its own weight to live with. But Nolan's parents are well within their right to push for real answers. Any parent would, especially when their baby is the one who didn't come home, and especially when that baby is a young Black boy in Mississippi. That's not as far removed from racism as some of these kids might think, and not having to think about its own privilege. A friend not letting race affect how he felt about Nolan doesn't mean the rest of Mississippi operates the same way. Ask any Black kid in that town if they've experienced racism or microaggressions. The answer is yes. As a friend, I'd want real answers too. What happened after they left? Who saw him? There was a fight earlier. What if someone came back and something happened? Did he walk in the water on his own? Did he slip while drunk? Did anyone actually see it? If they don't know, they should be pushing just as hard for the truth as anyone else. And I don't agree with every narrative being floated by their lawyer, but it was just unfair for the police to jump to accidental drowning without a full investigation. No one saw what happened, and the coroner citing other drownings on Horn Island isn't proof of what happened to Nolan. Where's the outrage over that rush to conclusion? Ask yourself honestly, would it have moved that fast if a group of young Black boys who'd been drinking left one white friend behind? Also, not intentional doesn't mean not illegal. Even if Nolan's death was a pure accident, these guys can still carry civil and criminal liability. He admitted negligence and a disregard in this video. He admitted to underage drinking. He admitted to leaving him while he was impaired. He confirmed to the Coast Guard that everyone was on the boat, and he knew that they had his phone. He waited hours to call for help. Whether he said he'd get a ride doesn't erase any of that. Is it really just being a teen or having fun when someone loses their life? That should be up for a jury to decide. Still praying for his family and his friends and everyone involved. Another person says, Nolan's parents needs to say something to put the stop to his friends and their families being threatened. I'm so sorry for their loss, but their threats needs to stop. Another person says, sue Ben Crump and the race hustlers for slander. Another person says, I have lived in Mississippi my entire life, and I don't mean for this to sound racial, but it's the truth. 70% of Black Americans can't swim. That stat doesn't mean shit to the fact that Nolan could swim. To only 31% Caucasians. This is especially true in Mississippi. Now, mix in alcohol and other mind-altering substances, it can and easily can and does end in tragedy a lot here. I'm a nurse and a paramedic. Imagine this racist bitch being your nurse that has to save you. I don't mean to sound racial, but you know, like, girl, shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. Nolan could swim. His parents said that he can swim. So this stat means what? Show ass up. Somebody said, yeah, this kid isn't involved in some cover up at all. No way. The evidence plus statements from Nolan's Black friend a week or two ago and the coach, nobody killed Nolan. This was a tragedy, pure and simple. Someone says, Brandon, awesome. Part 3, 1, and 2 left me hanging. A whole lot left out. But part 3 answered all my questions. Sad, sad. This young man for sure is heartbroken. Too bad. America. So someone says, you know, everyone was drunk or on drugs. All those underage kids drinking equals trouble. Nolan could have been drunk. And when you are drunk, you don't act responsibly. Drinking from early morning until late afternoon, that's the recipe for disaster waiting to happen. A teenager, which he was possibly drinking a lot, it's easier disaster waiting to happen. Another person says, so he didn't think to call Nolan's phone? Oh, wait, he already had it. Another person says, if you can't swim in a pool, don't even think about swimming in the ocean. Nobody said he couldn't swim. Another person says, I wonder who was in a fight with his brother, because if Nolan stayed behind without them, who's to say the person in the fight with his brother didn't have words later with Nolan? And I want to hear from Katie. Someone says, I'm actually a little weirded out about the Coast Guard part. Everything changed in the interview at that moment for me. Would people still not be partying at 11 p.m.? This part of the story is a little odd to me. I feel there's a lot of parts missing. Between when they get back home at 11 p.m. and they panic, what made them start panicking? When did they realize that they had his phone on the boat? What made him think Nolan would have contacted his mother? Question mark. Someone says he's lying or he knows something. This person says Nolan was stuck under the boat. The marks on the back of his neck, probably from the engine blades from under the water. That's what this person says. Somebody says bullish. Someone says, no, the boat left the dock a few moments after, so the timelines does not make sense. Who took the boat out? What he stated does not make sense. Another person says, find the girl he was with. Someone says, but I thought she said he left with his friends. This person says, how many of his other buddies have parents that he has never met? At what point did he realize they had Nolan's phone? Who else did Nolan know on that island? If Katie and the boys are claiming they both last saw Nolan at the same time, there are many unanswered questions, and he doesn't sound like someone who just lost a brother. More like he lost an associate. Exactly. Another person says, you are about to forget about part of your team. The expert swimmer, Officer Tatum, don't get so wrapped up in this that you forget all about strides you have fought for. Another person says, ugh, I want part 4. Amazing interview. This is so heartbreaking for the whole community. To be accused without evidence is insane. Another person says, this is all BS. Man, the mom said out her own mouth that they wasn't best friends, and he never even met his mom. King, come on, man. Make it make sense. How is he always just at your house? And I know your Officer Tate seen some discrepancies in his dialects while speaking in his body language. Rewatch the full interview with all parts and look at how he loses eye contact for certain questions. He may jeopardize his life, but Nolan is dead, man. It's nothing to be laughing and joking and lying as if you know him or you knew him like that when y'all wasn't even close as much as that man. Why leave his phone with someone and he's staying with the girl and not leave his phone with the girl or the on her boot? Make it make sense. Y'all don't be lost by him being white and playing goofy, funny, apologetic, sincere, friendly Caucasian kid when he's not. They was drinking. Okay, I can't follow what he's saying. Somebody said this interview did not prove their innocence. This person says he has so much respect for the family. He said, I called Mrs. Christine. Another person says his neck thyroid is missing. It's just sad that you just want to justify that he died of his own mistakes and refuse to say that he possibly was killed, which I strongly believe someone killed this young man and someone is covering things up. What is done in the darkest will come to light. I pray that this young man and his family get justice they deserve. Another person says, did I miss something? He said that he didn't see Nolan after 3, but said that he was with his friend who was hollering for Nolan, who was with Katie, to get in the boat at 4:30. Was he around for that conversation, or his friend just told him what happened? Somebody said, where the F is Katie at? Another person says, so now we know that Nolan's mom, Christine, was lying when she said she had not talked to any of his friends. Someone asked her in a press conference and see if she had contact with any of the boys, and she had said no, but she should have said not recently because she did have contact with them when they called her. Well, Miss Love 77XOXO, she definitely said that she talked to one of his friends on Facebook. When she went to Facebook, she said who reached out to her, and she said how everything was going as it was going. Clearly, they were talking about after the fact. All right, let me scroll past some and let's go to all right. So this person says, this is confusing even more. So the boat that Nolan was on when he came to the island with 3 boys was not the boat that was sinking. So the 3 boys that Nolan came with were not on the sinking boat that left at 4:30. I'm guessing. Were they still on the island or left before? Did all 3 boats left at the same time? Very confusing. Another person says, what a betrayal of the white boys' friendship with the Wells by the black grievance industry. The Crump and Sharpton types of the BGI want to inflame race relations because they get rich from it. They can continuously suck in black folks of the Wells parents type to assist them because they get rich too. If you're a white boy like Wells' white friends, currently receiving death threats for no reason whatsoever, then self-preservation mandates that you think twice before becoming too chummy with a black friend, because when push comes to shove, blacks are much more tribal than whites in modern day America, and the GBI will stigmatize you or any other white person with the most vile label in our society, racist. They will destroy you financially, socially, and criminally if they can. I'm sure you white boys say, I don't see color, but the BGI does. And from their perspective, you're wearing the opposing team's uniform, white skin. It's not fair, but it is what it is. And you must act accordingly. Protect yourselves. All right? And that's what illegitimate non-carborundum 1955 says. These are young adults, not kids. And what's up with Katie and Javon? Some suspicious shit. This person says, no one thought to call Nolan's phone after not hearing from him. And that's the thing, right? He never says, when we left the island, we knew he had his phone, so we never called him. When did they realize that they had his phone? When did they call his phone and realize, or when did they say, oh, hey, this is Nolan's phone, we got Nolan's phone? Did somebody call the phone looking for him and realize, oh, wait, we got his phone? Or did you guys know the whole time that y'all had his phone and that he was left without a phone? Like, you know? Let's read some more comments. This guy is absolutely telling the truth. Some people automatically went to their white. They had something to do with it. It's just awful for his friends. I'm glad this guy got the opportunity to talk and set the record straight. Shame on the rest of you race baiting race. My love goes out to the family. I'm glad they got her the truth. It must be freeing to know this other boys are good boys and wouldn't do anything to hurt Nolan. He seems credible, starting to think someone else outside of the friend group is responsible for Nolan's death. Another person, in perspective, I found Nolan Wells' best friend to genuine and forthcoming. In my opinion, he was truthful in his statements. He was articulate and very well-spoken young man. Another person says, he said, do you think it had anything to do with race? Not including y'all. In general, sir. A lot of pauses during the interview. In his diction, no emotion at all when saying you experienced death. No emotion when you say you broke down. The average person would have paused and needed a tissue. I guess not you. This guy says, this guy is very confident with boating and safety. Just the fact that he knew if he could plane the boat out with the plug removed, that it would get the water out. I grew up in an area like this, and it's chaotic on these types of days. Hindsight is that Nolan should have gotten on the boat, but I'm not going to fault him because it's just part of it. He wanted to stay. I still to this day think something happened to him accidentally. He could have slipped in the water with a concussion. He could have gotten caught in the rip current, etc. There's nothing that makes me think these boys had anything to do with it. They left and Nolan stayed. They were not around when the accident happened. How do you know? Just because they said so? All right, so another person says, still have so many questions. Why was he calling others to see if they had spoke to Nolan? If Nolan's phone was in his possession, why was he calling around to see if others got in contact with Nolan? If he was one of the last persons with him, wasn't Nolan's phone found in their possession later on? Why didn't he initially try to call Nolan's phone directly if he was so worried? Also, who is this Katie girl? Why is she not being questioned? This is a tragedy. Rest in peace, Nolan. Another person says, there are so many people so ignorant, they are ignoring the truth on sole basis of race. The sad thing is, no matter what this young man says and others say, even if they are black, and all the evidence which we know it does all in their face, they will glance over it and still blame these young boys because they are filled with hate. Somebody said, like a brother. Yeah, sure. All right, so I'm trying to just get a mix. Somebody says, I'm a little surprised how many people say they think this kid is being totally honest. To me, it seems as if he's hiding something or purposely causing misdirection. I think we have yet to discover the bombshell of this case. Everything just isn't adding up. Far cry from the story that the racist family and their clown show is telling. This person says, notice how on all the important details he starts to stutter? Sounds like he's formulating his alibi. The title of this video should be Suspect's #1 Alibi. But Nolan's best friend tells the truth is no different than Crump and Al Sharpton pushing a narrative. Imagine if a white lawyer and a white activist swooped in to represent a white kid who drowned partying on an island. They start preaching murder simply because his friends were black, insinuating that since his friends were black, that this was obviously a murder. How would that play out? Well, if that was the case, then we would hear a lot more details coming out and we would hear a lot more information and the investigation would be a lot more transparent on the who's and the what's what. This person says, I don't like this. Something isn't right. But side note, accept Jesus with your whole heart. Pray for protection over yourselves, your children, and your family. Teach your kids about Jesus. Well, this person says, I truly appreciate you giving these kids a voice and all this racist stuff has to end. It does nothing for the memory of this young man. Just a tragedy. Rest in peace, Nolan. Another person says, I've been saying from the beginning, no way his friends killed him. If there's any foul play at all, I would think it was a man connected to the female Katie, like a boyfriend, ex-boyfriend, someone that had a crush on her. And if it was race related, could possibly be her father, brother, family member that didn't want to see her with a black guy if it was race related. Somebody said, with the video that just got leaked and people going on the run, this is going to age like milk. This person says, flat out, these boys innocent. God Almighty bless him for his truth and courage to speak it. And for you erring in Jesus Christ's glorious name. This person says, one thing I'm confused about, unless I missed it, didn't they say they called the Coast Guard? They had boat problems and they got towed in. He just said they ran in like that because he said after they got on plain water was leaving the boat, and the only way to get the plane is you need to keep going kind of fast. Like I said, unless I misunderstood other videos. Anyway, so this is what people are saying. Someone says, damn, just when I thought it couldn't get any worse. This ish was worse than 1 and 2 put together. You're still cutting ish out like we're stupid. And to make it even worse, Pinocchio couldn't even remember his lies. Lost my train of thought, Stop the cap. Oh yeah, one more thing. They make waterproof phone covers. Everybody had their damn phones. So wait, the last time Katie saw him was when they were yelling for him to get on the boat? I thought he told her he was leaving to go back with his friends and told them he was staying. Warren and Katie's stories are clashing with each other's. Time to interview her next. Something is off. All right. So it says, notice the whole interview. He's talking about how great Nolan was, like we don't know. This interview did nothing at all for you. He should have talked about his character, the truth. This is deflecting 1,000%. Trust me, he's hiding something. It's given socio-psychopath. And Tatum, you're such a pick-me boy. Heal that inner little boy in you, buddy. It's like the white man is the mafia because everyone acts scared when someone dies or goes missing. No one believes the investigators or people doing the autopsy, blah, blah. So anyways, this is the last one I'll read. So you're telling me the last time his friend saw Nolan, he was cuddled up with some girl on the side of the boat that was sinking? His friend then tells him to get on the boat. Nolan refuses. They leave him. But this is also the last time the girl he was just cuddled up with saw him too. How does that make sense? Nolan stayed for her. So as soon as his ride leaves, he then leaves the girl who he stayed for? And even if he didn't stay for her, as soon as the boat leaves, Nolan immediately leaves the girl, making that the last time she saw him when the friend was saying, get on the boat. That literally makes no sense. All right. So we have to stay tuned for the next installment of Tatum's grift. He's gonna milk this for all that it's worth. And it's probably going to be like a 10-part series, milking it for as much cash as he can get. You know, the same way that he talks about Ben Crump being about the money and all of that. He's trying to squeeze this for as much money as he can possibly get. If you guys want to come up and tell me what you guys think, you can click the link. But the stories are clashing. Katie is saying that the last time that she saw Nolan was when Nolan was being told to get on the boat. We haven't heard directly from Katie. We only heard from them saying what Katie said. But the stories don't make sense. It's so many unanswered questions. And we just skip past the fight. Like, that's not the relevant part. His brother got into a physical fight. I need to know, what boat did his brother get on? Was his brother that just got into this fist fight on the boat with him? Was he on a different boat? He said that one of the other boats left before they left. So then that left 2 boats left there. Did those 2 boats leave at the same time? And what is the GPS data of Katie's boat? What time did Katie's boat leave? What time did Katie leave the island? What movements are there? And in addition to that, what does their cell phone data say? Now, we're supposed to just trust the Mississippi police to do the investigation. Now, one of the news reporters that was in the area caught up with one of the news reporters in the area caught up with the sheriff, and he gave her this smug look. And you want us to believe that these people are really trying to get to the bottom of it. No, I think that they got their mind made up. They're not going to implicate the judge's son. And I don't believe that we're going to hear anything. We're not going to hear anything concrete. I don't think. Look at the smug look that he gives the reporter.
Sheriff, can I ask you a quick question really quickly? Can I ask you a question? I'm Chantel with WDSU in New Orleans. I actually came up here 2 weeks ago to meet with you, but I think y'all were in and out of meetings about the Wells case, and then they told me eventually you just weren't able to come out. So that was like July 8th. So I'm back now. Wondering if you guys will be releasing any more details concerning the case. The last thing I saw on your social media was on July 8th, the same day. So any extra details, because we did just get the independent autopsy results today. Anything that you can give us?
None at this time.
Okay, can I confirm that y'all are working with the FBI with the case?
Yes.
Okay, any other agencies that you're working with at this time? All right, and is this case still under investigation?
It is actively under investigation.
Okay, so I was told by the district attorney everything is going through her office at this time.
And everything else should be referenced to the district attorney's office.
Okay, so y'all are no longer answering questions about the case?
Yeah. I know you're trying to get some edited footage, but
no, I'm just asking. I'm just confirming.
That's all we're saying. We're actively investigating.
And everything else go to the district attorney.
Yes.
That's all I wanted to know.
As far as your media, your public records request, yeah.
Right. So pretty much it wouldn't be anything like pretty much don't contact your office to be like, hey, do y'all have any details? Everything goes through her. Is that what you're saying? Okay, that's all I wanted to know. Thank you. Name? My name is Chantel. We're from New Orleans, WDSU News. Okay. Yeah.
It's still actively being investigated.
Okay. We just heard that this morning. Again, this was from the press conference this morning. When mom said that y'all were saying there was no foul play in the beginning, but now this, has anything changed since then at all, or?
Like I said, we're actively investigating the case. It's still an active, ongoing investigation.
Okay, and to confirm, last question. To confirm, the state medical examiner did not release their report right at this time.
If I were you, I'd check with the district attorney's office too. As far as I know, you don't have to publish that. That's going through the district attorney's office. That's not. We don't do that. It's state medical examiner.
Thank you. Witnesses have helped you?
Yes, sir.
You've talked to witnesses over the last few weeks?
All right. So, as you can see, as she's talking to him, he has this smug look on his face. I don't think that they truly give a damn about Nolan. They just don't want to tell us. They got a lot of heat for immediately saying that there was no foul play. So my prediction is that they're going to wait until the toxicology comes in, and then they're going to tell us, well, now that we got the results from the toxicology, there's no foul play. Everybody go on. Nothing to see here. And that's my prediction, but they claim that this is going to be handed over to a grand jury. My thing is, who gave them alcohol? Who provided alcohol for the underage drinking? And if they stole alcohol and nobody provided it to them, then who's going to be charged? Or are they going to pin it on Nolan? My guess is a dead man tells no tales. So if nobody is held responsible, I'm sure they're probably going to plan. Well, Nolan's the one who gave us the alcohol. You know what I mean? I don't think that anybody is going to be held accountable. I don't think that they're actively looking for anything. And I think that there's a reason why they kept the throat, lungs, and vital organs away from the second medical examiner, because these specific organs is going to tell you exactly what happened. If there was, strangulation, if there was, any certain contents in his stomach, or all of the things, like the vital things that we needed to find out the manner, were conveniently left off. And my thing is, I can't wait until the medical report comes out, because if she does not have an explanation for why she kept those contents, so let's say she releases the report and it goes how I predict it's going to go. Oh, there was the little alcohol on his system, but nothing strange about his neck, nothing odd about his neck, nothing, no marks or no indications on his neck. There was nothing suspicious in his lungs. Like, I predict that she's gonna say there's nothing suspicious in all of the areas that she left off of the report for the second person. Does that make sense? Anyways, so we'll see. I don't know for a fact, but we'll see. That's just my prediction on what I think is going to happen. All of the things that was conveniently withheld so that the second medical examiner could not examine it is going to conveniently not have any type of issue or cause for it needing to be withheld. Okay. So y'all let me know what y'all think down below. None of y'all clicked the link. I guess y'all be scared to come up here, child. Okay. But it is what it is. I'll talk to you guys on the next video. Bye.